Would you like ASMR?
ASMR. I'm gonna eat a Jaffa cake right now.
Have you seen the one of Kourtney Kardashian doing that?
Yeah, I love it.
Like,
She's actually good with the ASMR.
Hello
and welcome
back
to...
to...
Oh my god. One of us needs
you
to-
say it.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of
On to the next!
With your hosts, me, Emilia.
And myself, James Kemp.
And this week we are carrying on the conversation all about life on a cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time last week talking about the pre-cruise.
We did.
Situation.
We didn't actually really get on to the actual
ship.
being on the ship, yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff to know. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, who loves our stagey backdrop?
It's so good, isn't it?
Obsessed. Yeah, I got given this as Secret Santa one year.
It's so
actually
good.
on a ship. And I always put it up in my
Yeah.
cabin. Because here's a fun fact about ships is all of your wall picks up like the whole entire room.
Yeah, and for
it's
those of you
great.
who can't see it as well, it's like a big tapestry with loads of different musical posters on it, really,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's
It's got a
like
bit of
literally-
Wicked, Avenue Q,
It's my vision board.
Phantom, like Hairspray, all of
Hairspray,
them.
Heathers, it's
Yeah,
just got everything
they're
on
all
there.
on there.
But, so on the ship, it's so easy to put stuff on your walls.
Mm.
And then on land, I was like, how the heck? House.
Ooh, grandfather.
Anyway, let's get going because we're on a time crunch today.
Yeah.
Sadly, we're not going to see anything tonight.
No, last time we saw Super Mario Brothers.
Oh,
The
we
time
loved
before
it.
that, we saw Rocky Horror Show. Today, unfortunately, we're
What
not.
I will be seeing is my grade 2, 5s and 6 ballets.
Oh, how
I will be
lovely.
seeing their syllabus work.
Yeah, and I'll just be going home.
At Italia Conti.
Oh yes, the Italian
Big up
Conti
Conti.
Academy.
So we've got to get this recorded before I have to go to teaching.
Yeah.
So let's just go straight into it because there's so much to cover and I'm scared that we're going to be talking for forever.
Yeah.
So let's pick up where we left off. We discussed, if you haven't yet listened to last week, it might be useful to listen in order because that was all the pre-employment business with the visas and medicals and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. And this week we're going to talk about the onboard life mostly. But let's pick up where we left off. And so let's just talk really quickly about what do you need to pack to work on a cruise ship? Because like we've said, there's loads of little random things that's really useful to know, such as like the magnetic walls. That is like a really useful thing. I usually will get like a magnetic calendar from
Yeah.
Walmart or something and stick that on like a little whiteboard, things like that. So what's your go-to?
Well,
What do
so-
you always need to bring?
So basically, when you first go, they actually give you a bit of a luggage allowance as to how much you can bring. Now, it's very dependent on the different companies that you'll work for. For the company I worked for, Carnival, they allowed me to have 2 large suitcases, both 23 kilograms each. One of them was included in the flight and another one was like a paid for extra, but they paid for that for me. So it could depend on the cruise ship company that you're working for.
It's usually, I think that's the same across
It's
the
quite
board,
standard. Okay, well that's good.
I believe.
So it means you can actually bring quite a lot of things because obviously you're leaving home for a very long time, aren't you? But obviously clothes is like a huge part of what you're going to bring because you need all sorts of types of clothes when you're working on board a ship. Obviously you're going to be going to work in mostly of the time hot
Mostly
climates.
of the time.
Yeah, that didn't really make sense. Did it? Most of the time hot climates. You can do cruises in colder conditions as well, can't you?
What is a nightmare is what I had to do on Silhouette, where we did the first half of our contract in hot countries, and then towards the end of my contract, we went to Finland and
that's difficult.
not Iceland, Norway and stuff, and it was absolutely Arctic. And it's a bit annoying when that happens because you're like, I need to bloody pack like a bunch of jumpers and coats to wear like right at the end of the contract that I don't need for the whole entire time. But you can't go to Norway without a big winter coat and
No,
stuff.
because
So
you'll literally freeze.
actually, it happened on Norwegian as well because we did Caribbean and then we did Canada. So then
Oh,
I had to
Canada's
go out
cold.
and buy scarves and stuff. It's kind of annoying because that's just like, oh, if I can just pack for one climate, then you know what you're getting. And like, obviously, if you're packing for hot climates, smaller items.
Yeah.
You know, bikinis
Yeah.
and shorts. Whereas if you have to go to Alaska and Norway and stuff, it's fine. It just takes up more room.
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of annoying.
It is annoying, but you do need all sorts of different types of outfits. So you need weather-dependent ones for outside. You need lots of shorts and t-shirts, or coats and jeans and things like that. You also need specific clothing for the job as well. Now, most cruise ships, because you are obviously a crew member on board as well as a performer, you do sometimes have uniform standards that you have to meet on board, and dress codes as well.
We call it guest appropes.
Yeah.
You have to wear guest appropriate clothing when you go out into guest area. You can't just, like, I couldn't wear this into a guest area. You have to wear, like, it's kind of like, on Celebrity they called it like business casual.
Yeah,
like,
I was not allowed to wear any sort of t-shirt that had a round neck. It had every shirt I had to wear was a collar.
polos.
Even if I was just going out in like a shorts and a t-shirt, if I was just going onto one of the Lido decks for lunch
you're
or
just
something.
like running up to get the buffet or something. It's like you have to. I mean, for girls, I don't mind it because it's like quickly just whip a dress on
Yeah,
and then go up, and the boys would just put like a polo and chinos on or
Yeah.
something and go up.
I found it annoying though because
It's
I own
annoying.
like 10,000 t-shirts, but none of them have collars. It's so weird. So I had to actually go and invest in some t-shirts that had collars.
I've been
just to
buying
look a bit
so
smarter.
much guest appropriate stuff, but I'm addicted to shopping. If anybody knows me, I'm literally the world's worst shopaholic. I actually think it's a problem. Like I actually think
You
I
actually
have
are.
a shopping
I'm
addiction.
really
I
not
always
that.
have. Literally since I was little, I'm obsessed with just buying clothes. So I just find it as an excuse. I'm like, I need some more guest appropriate clothing, so
Yeah.
I'll just go and keep buying nice dresses and like formal trousers and like shirts and stuff like this. I just buy stuff all the time that I'm like, yeah, I could use that for something.
Yeah.
And
It's an
on-
excuse, isn't it?
on that note, you also usually will have like a formal night or something along those lines. It could be like called like a gala night,
Yeah,
or
elegant night it was called on my
on
ship.
Celeb it was called evening chic.
Ooh,
How
chic.
Yeah, no, evening chic.
Yeah, it was called elegant night on my sheet. And I was going to mention
your
this
sheet.
too. Yeah. Is that what I said on my sheet?
You cannot talk today.
I can't.
Put your teeth back in your mouth.
Oh my goodness. I know, sorry. What was wrong with me? But yeah, they you do have a elegant night or a formal night on your ship, and sometimes I actually had to have about 3 or 4 different suits because I would have them so often. And you'd be expected to wear them if you were going to the bar in the evening, or sometimes you go out and mingle with guests just to chat to them, or like guests will come over to you and want to speak to you. So it's always nice to like really dress up and look nice, and they do sometimes require that of you. So it is
Yeah.
good to bring along some sort of like even like a ball gown.
Yeah, the
or-
girls. Well, the thing is, I thought it was going to be like have to be like ball gowns. It doesn't really have to be ball gowns.
No.
You could take a few long midi dresses. I mean, it does depend on the ship. I think they'll make it clear like exactly how formal, and like once you've done a contract, like you'll kind of be able to gauge it a bit.
Yeah.
But like I would wear a much more formal dress on an evening chic night compared to like on a regular night. I'll just maybe wear like a sundress or something
Yeah.
like that. But like it just has to be, you know, it's like it has to be something that's appropriate that you would wear to like your grandmother's birthday meal at the country club. Like
Yeah.
it's not like
Because everyone does that.
are we like so sorry?
This is like
Oh
making
my
us sound so
god, that
fun.
was
You
embarrassing.
know, just when we're off to our country club.
We're obsessed with our nans. Like,
We are. To
I
be
live
fair,
at
my nan
Nan's.
is part of a tennis club.
You are at your nan's tennis club every
Yeah.
week.
She gives me free breakfast there. It's great.
Anyway, we're just a couple of oldies at heart. But just
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
you
think-
can't really just like you wouldn't wear what I'm going out to South Bank with my friends for a cocktail.
No.
You wouldn't really wear that. You'd wear like
Probably a bit smarter, like shoulders like covered maybe,
Yeah.
or like.
and
not-
it really
not too
does
short.
depend on the ship and the management of the ship at the time. So you have like officers on the ship, obviously. The hotel director is usually like right up there. You have the captain, you've got the staff captain who is like this like second in command.
Yeah.
Like he would take over the ship after the captain. And he's like who you would get sent to if you're in trouble. I did have to do a staff captain meeting once because
I did as well,
I
actually.
dropped my ship card in, where was I? Bahamas. I dropped it going back onto... that was loud. Was that you?
What?
Was that me?
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, I just got like a notification and it came through the headphones really loud.
I didn't hear a thing.
Oh, it's that.
Oh.
But I dropped my A pass coming back to the ship in the middle of the market in Nassau,
Oh, God.
and then so I couldn't find it. I got back to the ship. I was like, oh my God, I've lost it. So I had to run back, and then my good friend Eds, if Eds is listening, I love you. He was so sweet. He was like, I'm not letting you go back out there into the market in the Caribbean like by yourself. So he's like, I'll come with you and help you look. And we retraced my steps, and it was exactly like where it dropped. But we were late, so you're not allowed to be late back to the ship. Basically, it's really, really strict. You have all aboard times, and the crew have their all aboard time usually half an hour or an hour before the guest all aboard. And if you're late to that,
and it's a big thing as well, because if you're late to going on the ship, that means the ship can't leave the dock until everyone is on board, and the ship will leave late, and then it ruins the timings.
Very strict. Like even for the guests, it's strict.
They
will
get left behind.
just leave you behind. But for the crew, it's even more strict because like you work for the
work
ship.
for them,
like, you'll be in huge trouble. So we were late. I think you can get like 3 strikes basically with Norwegian, and then it's like immediate dismissal. So we were late back, but we had like a valid reason. It's because I lost my thing, so I couldn't get back on, and like Eds came with me, so I wasn't by myself. So, but we did have to go and have like this scary meeting with the staff captain at the bridge. But luckily, he was really nice, and I was fine.
Do you want to know my staff captain? Mine was actually a bit worse. Like mine was actually just like my fault, and like yours was like an actual like you didn't mean it. Well, I didn't mean it either, because I'm actually a massive goody-goody. I hate confrontation. I hate causing people issues. It stresses me out. But I just didn't really realise that I was at a drill for the ship. Yeah. And it was like my second week on board, I think. And I didn't have a duty at this point. It was like just because I was brand new, I just got on and I was in my muster station. We were just sitting around. And I was like, this drill's going for ages. And I saw people were like on their phone. So I was like, I'm just going to sit here and be on my phone. I was like, we're just sitting around waiting for this drill. I didn't really get how it worked. Yeah. Like no one really explained to me the importance of a drill. So I was just sat on my phone. And they came around and they were like, what's your name? And I was like, oh, I'm James. Like,
super smiley.
Yeah, and they were like writing it down. They were like, okay, thank you. Could you put your phone away? And I was like, oh, sorry, yeah, sure. Anyway, next thing I knew was I was invited to a meeting with the staff captain, and I was given like, it wasn't an official warning, but it was like a verbal type warning, and it was with the entertainment director and everything. Like I had to be like really disciplined, and I had to like apologise and be like, oh my God, I'll never do it again. And he was like, because if this is a really important thing, like if this ship is sinking, you can't just like be sat on Instagram. Which is fair and makes sense, but at the time I didn't really know. No one had really taught me what I was at. I didn't really realise that I was at this really important drill. I just thought it was like something I had to turn up to, and I just thought I was like waiting for it to start, even though I didn't realise it had already begun. And it was like on my second week.
Just a lot of standing around.
Yeah, and I was sat actually. I was in this like, it was called the Limelight Lounge, and I was just sat there, and I was like, oh, well, someone over there's on their phone, so I was like, just, having a little scroll, waiting for this drill to begin. Little did I know it had already begun.
Don't want James to be in charge of any muster station.
No, well, I became it in the end. I was I wasn't a leader. I was just a muster person, and I got people into that station.
I do the bare minimum in drills. I do nothing. Anyway, all that to say that's your staff captain. Underneath the staff captain, you have hotel director, and because essentially the ship is a floating hotel. Yeah. But there's like 2 sections like of management in the ship. There's like the navigational side of things, which is obviously the captain and like the engineers,
the controlling of the
sailors,
operation.
All of those people. And then there's the hotel side of it, which is obviously like the entertainment, the housekeeping, the food, all of that.
Making sure the interior is running to standard. Yeah.
So your hotel director can kind of like make or break the contract, because they are in charge of us and they set a lot of the rules and they set the kind of tone. So if you have like a mean hotel director, and like I've had a few, they can be really strict on enforcing the dress code and stuff like that, and just like they just really go for it with the rules, and they can just make your life on board just super annoying and say like, you can't have midriffs out, you're not allowed to wear these boots, you're not allowed to wear this, you can't walk around in groups, you can't do this, you can't do that. Or if you have a nice one, you can just get away with wearing whatever. Like at one point on the Silhouette, like our hotel director was like pretty chill, and we could get away with quite a lot. Like I feel like I could wear quite a lot of stuff. I could wear my knee-high boots. I could wear jeans, like dark jeans, in guest areas, and they were quite nice and lax with it. Like you still had to do the rules, but they weren't like super strict. Whereas then on Apex, they were like way more on the ball, and like maybe because it's a newer ship as well, so they're always a bit more.
Yeah,
like,
it just depends on the standards that your hotel director has, really, as to like what you can get away with.
Also, not just that, but also if they're a nice person.
True. And also some ships as well, like, are targeted at different target audiences. Yeah. So if you work for,
Carnival were just like
Carnival, who I work for, is more of the like budget cruise line, really, for Americans. Not for staff. Staff is really bougie.
You get the riffraff at Carnival.
But you do get the sort of not so nice.
We turn our nose down to the Carnival people.
Excuse me, loads of people have been on Celebrity and told us that Carnival is home.
Yeah, because they're not at that calibre, you know. It's just the riffraff.
But that is like their sort of more like demographic of guests is a bit cheaper, so their standards are not normally as high. Whereas if you worked for a company like Seabourn, that is for like the richest of the rich. Like most of the time you'll be wearing ball gowns, you'll be wearing, like I've had a few friends that have worked for Seabourn, and they say like it is very, very, very rich. Like the clientele that come on board
very expensive. Even the difference between like Norwegian is like family orientated, probably similar to Carnival and Royal Caribbean. They're like kind of big family ships, like there's like big kids areas, slides, all of that fun stuff. Everything's sort of tailored more towards like families and younger people, compared to like under the same company they've got Regent and Oceania, which are then more getting like the highbrow. They're smaller, they're way more expensive, they're very bougie, so that's going to be like a different standard than like NCL. And the same from Norwegian compared to Celebrities, completely different demographic. So you kind of have to just like do it accordingly. But in general, there is dress codes you have to follow. So you have to make sure you pack enough guest appropriates. And here's the thing, obviously as well, if you're doing rehearsals on land, you need to pack your rehearsal gear. You need your leggings and your sports bras and your like stuff that you'd wear to rehearsals.
And also you might need it as well for when you're on board, because normally you have access to the gym or rehearsals on board as well. Like you have to do different rehearsals throughout the contract if someone's ill, but we'll get on to that.
However, I would say really the rehearsal period compared to the onboard period is very short, and you can get by in rehearsals by just like, you're living somewhere, so you can just wash your stuff, you've got laundry, and like re-wear stuff, whereas like I would take like 7 pairs of leggings, 7 sports bras, like so much like fitness wear. And then on board, once, obviously when you're in install and you're rehearsing on board, you're still wearing your rehearsal stuff. But then once you get going with the ship, you're either wearing like guest appropriate stuff, or stuff to go ashore, or like something slobby and comfy to wear around, like trackies and PJs and
like
stuff.
Backstage.
Yeah,
you don't really need all that fitness stuff.
You only, once you're like on board, you only need like a couple pairs of shorts, a couple pairs of leggings to go to the gym, and you're doing your own laundry, so you just can re-wear them and wash them. And that's where I think I keep trying each contract to pack less of that stuff, because I pack so much of that and it's just a bloody night. It's just, I hate packing, guys. I hate it. And like, so when I did Silhouette, I'm just going to say this because this was so hilarious. I'm going to put these pictures on Instagram because they're actually so horrendously bad. I'm like embarrassed by this, guys, because I traumatized myself with my suitcases on Silhouette. For my friends that did Silly with me, like, Callie, James, you guys know actually how traumatised I was on the first day we got on board.
I know about this too, because I received extensive video Snapchats.
Yeah,
being like,
you did like a
I can't walk any further.
So,
I have to take my bags.
like, it was awful, guys. We went to and from Southampton, so there was no flights. We went straight to the ship, so I was like, that means I have no luggage restrictions, no weight restrictions with my bags. Basically, whatever I can physically take, I can just bring myself. And I was like, I'm going into a 2-week quarantine when I got on the ship, and I'm on the ship solidly for 8 months. So I was like, I need to bring enough to like get me through quarantine.
Yep.
I need to bring food. I need to bring everything. So I brought like 6 bags, all of them ridiculously heavy. I brought an entire, you know those IKEA bags?
Yeah, the big blue ones.
Those big blue bags. I brought an entire thing full of food. I did a Tesco food shop.
Oh my gosh.
I bought £250 worth of what? Snack food. Like pot noodles, things I could make in my...
£250?
No, legit.
Oh my god.
£250 of pot noodles, like cup of soups and like things like that.
God.
Stuff that I could make in my cabin, pastas. I had like tins of sweet corn. I had like like crisps like you wouldn't believe. Like so much, because on my first contract I realised I'm in America for all this time, and the number one thing I missed the most was English food, like British snacks, the crisps and the chocolate and the biscuits and like the stuff, the home comforts. I just can't do. And like obviously tea. Tea is a big one. Like they
shopping in America is just very different as well. The food is like, I know from being on tour there as well, the food is just like,
it's just if you're, I mean, everyone likes their own home comforts, but like it's just not the same. I'm sorry. I know, like, my sister, she loves American snacks. She loves Cheetos. She loves, like, the American food. I don't like American crisps. I don't like American chocolate.
No.
I just like all the I love a Jaffa cake. I love a mint Aero. I love a cheese and onion crisps.
Yeah.
Like, so...
Also, the Cadbury's in America is not the same. It's really, like, sickly. It's like... Yeah.
No offence to Americans, but, I mean, they all say that as well. They love Cadbury's. So... I'm talking really fast, but I'm just aware, like, there's so much to cover this week, and I don't have that long. So, for Silhouette, I was like, not only am I going to not be in England, I'm also going to be stuck in my cabin, and I am bringing my bloody snacks. So, I literally did £250 worth in this huge IKEA bag. Like, it was insane. And then I had 2 huge suitcases, like 30 kilograms each, packed to the brim. Like, they're massive cases, but normally you wouldn't actually fill them to bursting point because you have to take them on a plane and it would go over your weight allowance. I didn't have a weight allowance, so I went insane with the amount of crap that I brought with me. It was just ridiculous, guys. I can't. So then I got to the terminal. I was stressing. I mean, all of the Brits, me, James and Callie, all 3 of us, we had a little group chat before and it was called Stress Heads, and it had that picture of the Queen when she was like farming and she's like in like a farming outfit. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
And
I remember you telling me about this as well.
Yeah, and we would just chat on this group chat. We were getting really stressed because it was, again, COVID contract, so we had to do all this COVID stuff, and we had to go, annoyingly, we had to drive to Heathrow and stay like 1 or 2 nights in a hotel in Heathrow for quarantine before we went to the ship. And it was like, I literally just live here. Why am I driving? But the Aussies, my God, they had to do like a 2-week quarantine in Australia, then fly and do like 2 weeks in Heathrow, and then get to the ship and do like 2 weeks
That's
on
awful.
the ship.
I mean, they've come from miles away.
But anyway, point being, we were like stressing on this group chat. We were all like, we're not flying. We're all from quite local. And we were like, I was like, guys, have you got loads of stuff as well? We all had loads of cases between us. But I definitely had the most by a mile. So then I'm using those like pushy luggage things at the terminal. I literally brought teacups with me, like everything. I have my own little kettle, portable kettle. I like literally brought so much. Then we go on the ship, and I was like, at security, getting onto the gangway, the security was like, how much stuff have you got? This is insane. So they helped me wheel it onto the actual ship. I got on the ship, I got in the lift, I got taken to deck 6, and they were like, I had my ticket.
Was that where you were living?
Yeah, for the quarantine. So it's like, I have my ticket for my cabin. But it's quarantine corridor. So there's no like staff walking around. No. There's no one there. There's people that have just literally gone into it's just crew. Gone into their quarantine cabins, and that's it. It's like a ghost town.
Right.
This ship was quite big, and I did not know even what side I was meant to be in. I had no idea where this cabin was. I had 50,000 cases to carry around, and it was I was literally crying. I was sweating like you wouldn't believe, because my wrists were breaking. I had like, literally, no joke, a camping rucksack on my back.
God.
I had like 5 cases, and I would just like take as many. Also, one of my cases was so weighed down, and it only has 2 wheels, and it would not drag along the carpets. Like, it was not rolling. It was like I was just lugging it. And I would just like take one case, plonk it down, go back, get the next. Yeah. But I didn't know where I was going. So I went all the way up and down the entire length of the ship on one side, couldn't find the cabin. I was sweating, like crying. I was like, I can't deal with this life right now. And you get on the ship, all of your info to connect to the Wi-Fi is in the cabin. And there was no data.
Yeah.
Like, once you're inside the ship, it wasn't connecting to data anymore because I wasn't near like a window or something. Yeah. So I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't like contact my manager to come and tell me where to go. I was literally like an hour. All my cast had gone way before me because I took so long coming through the terminal with my bags. So they'd all already gone and they were in their cabin. So I couldn't even text like Callie and be like, what side am I on? Where am I going? I couldn't contact anyone. I was literally crying. It was so difficult. I was bright red. I was like sweating. Everything was hurting. It was a long day. You're up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I was on the total wrong side, and then had to backtrack and then go to the other side. And I made it to my cabin, and I was like shaking. I was like, I can't, because we didn't even know when we got offered that contract as well. We were like, at any point something could go wrong. Like we were so ready to test positive for COVID or for like something to fall through, because there's so many things we had to do.
Well, you went on at a very uncertain time.
It was very uncertain, and like we just didn't know what was going to happen. So we were just
remind
on
our
edge.
listeners of when you went on. It was end of 2021, wasn't it?
October 2021, October 2021, and we literally had been saying in that little group chat, we were like, I'm just so ready for it to like go wrong. Like, we didn't post about it. We were like, I'm not actually going to believe that this contract is happening until I'm like sat in the cabin. And then finally, like once I got into that cabin, like I was literally like, I can't believe this. Like it was horrendous, guys. That was such a long story, but I learnt my lesson, because that actually really genuinely did traumatize me with how much luggage I took. And then like every time I've flown, my luggage is always overweight and I have to pay extra. I think the companies do reimburse you, but I just don't think I ever bothered putting the receipts through.
I have to say as well, definitely, I'm really bad for this, but definitely underpack, because when you go and live abroad, obviously you buy things. When you're there, you'll get off the ship, you'll be like, oh, I love that top, like I'll buy that. And you'll see things, you'll go shopping, you'll go on excursions, you'll create lots of things, and you'll get them and you'll keep them in your cabin, you'll want to take them home. And you still have the same amount of luggage that you came with. So definitely like leave that space.
I still have this technique, but because obviously, I'm away for 8 months. I'm obviously going to buy stuff. I can't help myself. No. I really can't help it. And when I'm in Florida, especially when I was at Bay Vista, it's right next to this mall called Aventura Mall, and it's a really good shopping mall. It's really nice. And I was just, you can use, you get like a Royal Caribbean card, and you get like a Lululemon discount, basically,
nice.
because you're like an athlete. And all you have to do is just show your Royal Caribbean card to the people in America, and then I kept going to Lululemon and just getting this discount all the time.
And then you had all that fitness stuff that you didn't need.
I had extra fitness stuff that I didn't need. I already had, and then I was going to Abercrombie and kept being
God.
this is a lovely dress. I'm going to get that because I need more guest appropriates. And I was like almost getting Vans and shoes, like just so much. So,
and you're on that nice paycheck too.
Yeah, you're literally like, I just want to go get all this stuff. But I always rely on my family coming out to the ship, because I literally say to my parents, to my grandparents, you have to bring an extra empty luggage because I'm going to give you all this stuff to take back. And they've done it on every contract I've done. So when they've flown, they've just taken an extra case so I can fill it with stuff.
That's good.
And then with the Southampton one, obviously none of them were driving either. They were all coming from Southampton. So that was good because I could just give them loads of stuff, and if they could like literally just take it. But even then, I still had a ridiculous amount. And the cabins are just not big enough. Like, I honestly, it's so dumb for me because I know that I don't have that much room. You have to be like really clever with space.
You do.
And then I'm just overpacking.
Well, so the moral of the story is just don't overpack.
Just really, it's so hard, guys, but really try. I would say the priority should be your guest appropriate stuff, because that's what you're going to wear the most, and that's like what you need to like have looking nice. Whereas like t-shirts and like loungy wear,
you can buy them,
just rewear. You can like, you know, that's easy. You just wash it and rewear.
Because you're not going to wear that in front of guests anyway. You can look sloppy and stuff. Another thing that we haven't mentioned about packing is things to entertain yourself with. We talked about food on your one specifically, which is a bit harder if you have to fly to America or anywhere for rehearsals.
But I would still say, if you're British, bring your tea bags.
Yeah.
Goes without saying, you need to bring your tea
them.
bags because you won't be able to get them. And then, like, I've ordered stuff online before from British Corner Shop.
Oh yeah, that's good.
That's a good little life hack. It's
What's
a good
the website
place.
called? BritishCornerShop.com?
I think it's called, I think it's just called that. I mean, you can also order stuff on Amazon, but I've paid like ridiculous delivery once for like cheese and onion crisps.
Oh
like on Apex, I've paid literally like.
They don't do them in America. No, they don't.
And they were cheese and onion baked. I love them.
Oh yes, yes.
And I would just.
Oh my god, I forgot they don't
be
do them.
craving crisps and pay ridiculous Amazon delivery for it. So and British Corner Shop is good if you're going to do a bulk buy as well.
Yes,
like,
it is.
If
I used to
all
do
the
it in
Brits
Japan,
like
actually.
do it together.
Yeah.
But if you can just like, obviously tea bags aren't big. I would say definitely tea bags is a priority.
But things to entertain yourself with, I was really silly, and well, I actually don't own a laptop anymore. I spilt a cup of tea, so British. I spilt a cup of tea on my laptop like years ago, and then I just never bought a new one. So I just used my phone and my iPad for everything. But definitely the mistake I made was I didn't download any television or things to watch, or like bring any books and things to read in advance. And you do get a lot of time sitting around in your cabin waiting to do your show. Like if it's like a sea day, then you have to sit around.
Sea days especially, guys.
Yeah, you need things to entertain yourself with, because otherwise you can get quite bored. And you can go and download things when you're in port, which is what I used to have to do.
It's a stress though, isn't it?
It is a stress because you're constantly searching for Wi-Fi everywhere. And sometimes the Wi-Fi is really bad or really slow. And obviously on the ship, the Wi-Fi is terrible. You
can't stream anything.
No,
you couldn't download anything. And if you even tried, it would cost way too much
it
in
costs so
internet
much money
to try and be streaming stuff.
Yeah.
So you just have to.
It costs way too much, and it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi is too slow. Obviously, you're in the middle of the ocean. So I used to have to like sit in cafes, like on these really lovely beaches, like trying to download a Netflix program, and I'd be like, "Oh my god!"
All the crew doing it.
Yeah, and I'd be like, "I've got one episode. I'm so excited."
And that was what I spent every embark in New York doing on Norwegian, because I didn't have a laptop. I just had phone and iPad. Every single embark day, I would sprint to Starbucks, and you're just sitting there all day downloading music and Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, same. I would do that as well.
Watch everything on there.
Because otherwise you're on board and you're like, oh, I just want to watch some television. I've got some moments to myself. And you're like, And then you end up watching the same programme over again because you're like, well, I have nothing else to watch, so I may as well just watch this episode again.
Also, I would say, especially in Norwegian, I was like downloading games on my phone and on my iPad. I was like, had all these games on my iPad, because if you're sitting in a rehearsal, it's not like you've got Instagram to scroll through. Like you're not you're not just like looking at TikToks. You don't have any internet. So if you've got like whatever games you play on your phone, I was playing these random Disney games on my iPad, like Disney's Magic Kingdom, and just because you need to do things that don't have Wi-Fi. But
it's hard.
I learnt from my first contract, because that was soups annoying to have to download everything on Netflix every single week. And then like when it was Christmas, I was like, oh, I need my Christmas album. So then I'd be there like downloading Ariana's Christmas album. So then and then I realised what everyone who's done ships before seems to do is have a laptop.
Yes.
They will have a hard drive, an external hard drive, which you can plug into the computer. On there, they will have like all their TVs and movies downloaded, and everyone always does like hard drive sharing
Swaps
parties.
And things,
So like you'll see what people have got, and like you'll just be able to build your collection and get more stuff on there. So when I went onto Silhouette, I sold my car because I was going away for ages, and I bought this Mac that I'm using now, and I was like, I need to buy a hard drive. So my dad has loads of TV and films on his hard drive, so I got a bunch from him, and then on that contract I just literally went to everyone in my cast and like got so much TV. I got all 10 seasons of Friends, which was such a lifesaver. I got that right before we got COVID, so right
if I ever
before
go back
did
on a
like
ship, I'm coming to you for all that
seriously
stuff.
I've got everything. I got like Jamae. Shout out to Mary if Mary's listening. Mary has everything on her hard drive, so I got so much from her. And Donnie, he had so much good stuff. He was like he was putting the work in. He was going to the crew deck every single week, downloading all the new movies and TV shows good. From the internet every week. So like when new movies were coming out, we were just going to dance and getting them off of him. So it's handy. So I've got some really good stuff on there. And then I was doing that in Miami for Apex. I was downloading like the Elvis movie and like, the Buzz Lightyear movie and like
I liked that one.
Black Phone, like all these movies that had just come out. So my hard drive now is popping off. But that is the biggest
crucial
life
that is
hack.
The one thing I just always say to myself, like if I ever do another ship contract, that is the one thing I have to do, is I have to get myself a hard drive.
You really do need
because
it.
I used to find it so difficult, like be sat in a port, like trying to download
just
one
takes
Netflix
up all your port
episode
time as well.
Yeah,
and like you can still go and download the odd things, like if you wanted to watch like a new season that's come. But even when we're in America, we can't. Our Netflix is US
it's a
Netflix.
different.
It's not even
you can't
English
download your like
Netflix
British
anyway.
shows either, and I just
Strictly Come Dancing. I've missed it for years in a row because I'm always away for Christmas, and I'm a celeb. I did have BBC iPlayer downloads last year, and I was downloading Strictly each week.
Yeah, and you can get VPNs
but it's just really long-winded, and it takes so long. And
and you have to rely on having a good Wi-Fi that you can find in the port. Like some places are fine, some places are like.
So that is
awful.
my biggest life hack. And if you want to really level it up, like me, by Apex, I had like hacked the system. Like I found out how to just really live my life the best way. So not only... I did this on Silhouette as well.
Oh.
I have my hard drive. I also brought an HDMI cable, so that then I can plug my laptop into the back. You just have the celebrity TVs are good because they've got the USB ports. I mean, you might not, it depends how old the ship is and like what TVs you have, but I mean, most TVs have the HDMI.
Yeah, they do.
So I could plug my laptop into the TV, and then I was just watching all my movies and stuff on the TV. I mean, if you just watch it on your laptop, that's still good. But it was so nice to just connect it to my thing, and then I had like all of The Office and all of Friends, and it was just great times.
Yeah.
Also, on that note, like I said, I did have loads of games on my iPad on Norwegian, and then when we went on to Silly, James, not you, my other friend James, he was like, on like week 1, he was like, do you guys want to come around and play Mario Kart? And I was like, yes! So we were playing on his Switch, and I was like, I friggin' need this Nintendo Switch. I didn't even really know about them before
Loads of people used to have game nights
and
online.
I was like, I told you last time, I'm a Nintendo girl. And I was like, I friggin' need a Nintendo Switch. And then that whole contract, I was trying to get one. And then it was when I actually got COVID and I was in this quarantine for ages. I was like, screw it, guys, I'm buying a Nintendo Switch. And I got my Switch, and it was the best. idea ever because you can just sit there and play on your Switch all the time. On Apex, literally 90% of my time I was just playing on my Switch in my cabin. Whenever you're sick, or if you, I mean, I'm saying that because I was just sick so much.
You were sick
on my
loads.
last contract.
I hate video games, so I would not do this. But
no,
but for most people, I know that it's like a good thing to do.
It's so fun. Like on Silhouette, we did so many game nights together, and there was like a few of us with Nintendos. So then we could do like multiplayer. We'd do like 6 people. We would play Mario Bros. We'd go down. They had like literally games rooms where they've got like pool tables and stuff like that for crew, but barely anyone ever uses them. So we would go down and plug in our Nintendos. We do like Mario Kart, Mario Bros, like play all these fun games. And then on Apex, I just had it in my cabin, and then I was just literally on my Nintendo 24/7. I love it. And now, even now, all these little guest end things, I always bring my Nintendo because it's just something you can do when you don't have any internet connection and you're not like speaking to people on the phone, like you're just stuck in a cabin, especially like we said on sea days. Let's just talk about sea days because on a sea day, obviously, nobody can get off the ship. So everywhere around the ship is very, very busy.
Yeah.
The guest areas, forget about it.
Yeah, you can't go there because, like, even to sunbathe, you'll have people coming up to you. They'll recognise you from the shows as well, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, are you from the show? Like, wow, I want to talk to you forever." And they'll, like, literally try and annoy you.
Like,
You'll be like, "I'm just trying to have a
You're
sunbathe."
not even really allowed
No.
half the time. They'll be very anti having the crew because obviously
You can't
the
go up
guests
to, like, the guest
come
buffets.
first. So it's like if the guests are having to queue already, they're not going to want the...
If they're American as well, don't ask them if they're in a queue. Because I've done that before. I've been like, "Are you in this queue?" And they look at you really confused.
Why?
Because they don't call them queues. They're like... They literally like think you're weird.
I'm in line.
Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you waiting in line?" They're like, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm waiting in the line." So this is a terrible American impression, but
but all that to say, like, you want to go to the buffet on a sea day, forget about it.
Yeah.
Don't even go up there. Like, obviously, if there's not many people on the ship, it's okay. But usually, it's
very
carnage.
busy.
It's absolute carnage.
chock-a-block.
Can't go to any of the activities in the day. Like, obviously, you can go to you can always get dinner in the buffet. Like, that's fine because a lot of the time in the evenings, the guests are going like to the paid restaurants and like they're doing like there's a lot more things on in the evening, so people are spread out more. Whereas in the day,
they're all on the
everyone's
leader deck.
going to the pool. Everyone's like going to the buffet. You know, it's just basically you have to just. You just stay in crew areas basically because it's too busy anywhere else, which means you're kind of limited with what you can do and what you can eat. So I know on Norwegian, like every sea day, I would stay in bed till like 10 or 11. Then I'd go to the gym because you're allowed to use the crew gym for most ships.
Oh, the guest gym, you mean?
Oh yeah, the guest gym.
Yeah.
You're allowed to use the guest
crew gym
gym
and the guest gym.
The crew gym is not.
Very nice.
I'd never used
I
the crew
stepped
gym.
in it once and I thought I'd caught like an illness.
And it's like there's no windows and like obviously.
You also have like loads of like men from Eastern Europe in there like grunting.
And
mine was like,
"Oh!" I would say as well.
I was like, "Oh, I don't want this." Sorry. I was like, I need to go where there's like cute little like.
And it's
people.
spacious, but also if you think about it, and this goes for all of the crew areas. We, as entertainment, you get like privileges. So we are allowed in a lot of guest areas, but lots of other crew members aren't allowed to use the guest gym, allowed upstairs. So for us to go and like take up the machines in the crew gym when we could go up and use the guest gym, it's just like, why? Unless it's super, super busy and it's a time when you're not allowed to be upstairs. Yes, there was like times when we just had to use the crew gym and nothing else. But I would stay in bed till 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Go upstairs to the gym. Come back down. I'd watch like Netflix or stuff with like my friend Marquisha. We used to watch like Stranger Things or something. And just like you just have to kind of stay away from everybody. And especially on Apex, we just would sit there playing on my Nintendo all day. And like, I don't know, you end up just waking up really late because you just don't want to go anywhere. Yeah. And even that brings us on to the mess. That's the crew.
The crew,
dining
it's like the
area.
dining area for crew. And the food there,
It's like a cafeteria.
Yeah, it is. It's like you just go up and you go get your own thing, or sometimes they serve it for you as well. You can be like, it depends on.
No, for me, it depended on COVID.
Yeah.
When it was
COVID,
okay,
fair enough.
to serve it.
I'm a pre-COVID ship goer.
Do we like the mess?
I didn't mind it. I would prefer to eat in one of the bougier restaurants.
Also, you have to bear in mind that majority of the crew is not from like Western culture.
No.
A lot of them are from like Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the food in the mess would be catered to those kinds of diets. So there's a lot of like rice and
Dal.
like random stuff. On Norwegian, I did really was a bit traumatized by the mess.
Oh, really?
Because it was not the biggest ship, so it was not the biggest mess. And I just really couldn't deal with the food. There was not many options for stuff that I like in the mess. And it was just like... we had mystery broth. There was like this tub of broth, and it was like no one knew what the hell was in there. Sometimes you'd see these like animal feet like floating, like eyeballs, like random horrible disgusting stuff.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
Not to disrespect anybody's cultures or food, but like from our perspective, I was like, what is that floating trotter? Like, I'm not going to eat that.
Like Lisa Rowley in her jazz shoes.
Literally. So I really couldn't deal with it. And I just had the worst time whenever I had to eat in the mess. I just really hated my life. On Apex especially, again, it's a newer ship, it's a bigger ship. There was like different rooms in the mess. There was lots more options. There was like
we had on my ship, we had a staff mess and a crew mess. So the crew mess was for like crew members who would work and would only be allowed in back of house areas unless they were working. And then the staff mess was for like people who could
officers,
and had more privileges. There was actually also a captain's mess as well on mine, so where like all the officers could eat and they had their own private dining room.
But it is tricky, and also on my last contract, what we didn't like about the mess was it was very busy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're literally like, oh my god, it's like feeding time at the zoo. There's like literally
You'd have to queue
thousands of people. It's so noisy. It's so crowded, and I just did not enjoy that. I was like, oh my god, it's too crazy. And to be fair, the guest buffet would be like that sometimes as well. If you went at peak time, you're like, oh my god, I can't deal with how many people are here, and like they just keep trying to talk to you. So on a sea day, I really try and avoid these busy areas. So that's why it's good to have some snacks in your room, like have a little like hot noodle or like...
Do you know though, I didn't mind some of the food though on mine. Like in the staff mess, we used to have like an ice cream machine. Like, you know, ones where you like pull the lever and it's like... Yeah, I loved that. That was nice.
I never used that ice cream machine on any of my contracts.
They're so good, but I'm just I have a bit of a sweet tooth.
All I eat is pasta and pizza.
Yeah.
It's just not that good.
No. The food, that was my thing with the food as well, and this is just a thing for food on cruise ships in general. When you're on board, they seem to do the same meals most weeks, because obviously all the guests getting on board, they are only there for like a week or however long their cruise is. Maybe it could be longer or shorter. And they just seem to recycle the same sort of meals every day because it's different for the guests. But when you live on it,
it's just so repetitive.
It's very repetitive. And that was the one thing I really looked forward to when coming home, was I was thinking, I just can't wait to have more variety in my meals and not have this same food all the time. Also, I don't know if this is true, but there was a rumour on my ship that they put like something in the food to make you like, sorry, it's a bit gross, but like poo a bit more runny.
It's because, like a lot of like
so you don't clog
salt.
up the...
It's like very salty and like saturated, and like there's a lot. I think they put a lot of added. I've heard
and
that.
it's to make it apparently so that you poo like, this is so gross. Sorry, disgusting. But it's so like you poo a bit like more runny, so that it doesn't block up the pipes on the ship for when you like go to the toilet.
It was. I mean, yeah, they definitely do put a lot of like stuff. It's just quite a lot of additives.
It's
and
very weird food.
I think it's preservatives as well, because obviously if you're at sea for days,
obviously you're in America too.
Food.
We're talking about American cruise ships, and American food is just like that in general. American food is
it's not as fresh.
No.
And like you'll get like food uploaded, that's not the word, but like delivered on like random port days, so like you get quite a lot of like Caribbean fruit and stuff, but it's just it's very repetitive. You're like, how much melon can I have?
It's
just
like
you'd
day.
Never see a berry.
No.
The only time I saw a berry was when I was staying with my parents' cabin, and they got upgraded to this really lovely suite, and they got all this like afternoon tea deliveries and champagne deliveries, so they'd get chocolate covered strawberries delivered to their cabin, and I was like, a strawberry, and then it was just amazing. And we used to go out to Walmart every week in Florida and just try and, because you can't really bring food back on.
It's more like snacks you're allowed.
Like you can bring crisps, but you couldn't bring food.
But fruit is a bit.
But we just try and like smuggle bananas and berries back, and you get a fridge in your cabin, like a little mini fridge.
Yeah.
So I would get my oat milk. I try and get like bananas.
Lots
and
of people
used
to get like avocados and stuff. They can add it to their dinner.
You can like take it to the mess, and you can like make whatever. So we did that quite a lot. I will say, one of my friends on Norwegian, our friend Chelsea, I don't know how she did this, but one time she brought on an entire roast chicken from Walmart. She came back on board and literally brought on a full roast chicken.
Oh,
it was crazy. But yeah, it's just smuggle on quite a lot of food, but you're not really allowed to have like fresh produce in your room.
They're a bit strict as well, because you're going to and from different countries as well, and especially bringing it back into the United States, they're so strict. The United States is just very strict.
You can be a bit sneaky with it. Or like I'd go upstairs and
the worst
take some bananas from Ocean View, from the cafe, from the buffet, and I'd just like put them in my bag and be like, I'm just going to take some bananas back. But I will say as well on this note, while we're talking about it, on my last contract, I'm vegetarian, so I had a vegetarian diet the whole time. On Silhouette, I was vegetarian, but I was like slightly more flexy at the start. It was like just when I started eating vegetarian, but predominantly like didn't eat meat that contract, and then on Apex I didn't eat it at all. But it's very limiting, and I was trying to like avoid gluten as well at the time. So it's just like if you've got any kind of
specific
dietary requirements, it's just a bit annoying. You can make it work, and luckily I was working with like really useful, like I had like a fitness and nutrition coach. Shout out to Bronwyn. She like was the best ever. She's like, if you're working on a ship, I really highly recommend her. Bronwyn Updike, she's on Insta. She literally saved my life, because she would give me weekly tailored like daily schedules of like workouts, and she'd like give me my workouts. She takes into consideration like when you're I send her my schedule. She'll like schedule different things depending on your schedule. She'll give you like food.
Did you have to pay her for it?
Yeah.
That's so
like
good.
Paid for like a 12-week course, I think.
Wow, amazing.
And then she's like sending me motivation all the time. We did like a weekly check-in. So if you're working on a ship, that actually was I did it on both contracts with Celebrity, and it really like helped me get through and like motivate me and give me like a good fitness plan.
That's
because
great.
And she's worked on ships as a dancer, so she understands
the whole thing.
Everything like about the buffet and stuff like that. So she was really great, because she would sort of give me suggestions and being like, I know the food is limited at Ocean View, but let's see if we can incorporate this food. Maybe when you go to the shops, maybe try and get some of this that you can take to the mess and add it to this. So that was very good, but you do end up just eating the same kind of things.
Yeah, it is. But that was one thing I thought.
Especially as a veggie, like on Apex in Ocean View, there was not much. It was basically either pasta or a veggie stir fry. Then everything else in the buffet was like meat. There was like barely anything that was.
Also, can I just say as well, I don't know what it was like on your ship, but the cake was disgusting.
Oh, I didn't really eat it.
Oh, the cake was horrible, and I'm a huge cake fan.
It's
I love
like
cake.
Flambe.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's like squidgy.
They did have, actually, Carnival has this really famous chocolate melting cake it's called, and that is really good, and that all the guests were obsessed with it. They would constantly go on about it, they would write about it in all their reviews. But their cake at the Lido deck was like vile. I remember eating it thinking, this is vile. Like I love cake, and this cake is just rancid.
Cake, I love cake.
Cake, I love some cake, I do.
Weirdo. But the food, guys, the food is a biggie.
Yeah.
I like it. It's tricky. You just have to do what you can. Stock up on as much as you physically can, and just try and get by. Like, get your friends and family to send you out some nice treats from home. Like,
a care package.
I will say one more little story on that. On Norwegian, I met this like British guest. We were sailing in America and Canada, so there wasn't that many Brits, and I bumped into this British guest after the shows. He was chatting to me, and we were just chit-chatting, and I was saying, do you know what, I miss English snacks so much. Like, I just want a nice packet of crisps and a cup of tea. Like, I'm dying out here. And he was so nice. He was like, oh, I've brought so much Tesco stuff with me. He was like, come and meet me here, and I'm going to give you a whole bag full of stuff. Wow. He gave me a whole Tesco's bag of like multi-packs of crisps, like cheese and onion crisps, and like rhubarb and custard little sweets, and like just biscuits, all this stuff. I was actually crying, guys. I was like, because the tiniest things are the biggest deal. So, and I was like, I just wanted these crisps so bad. Just makes such, and again, you're just like sitting in your cabin half the time, and you're like, I just want a quick snack. And if you've got like a big pack of Quavers, it just changes. Yeah, it just helps
everything, doesn't it?
It's just so good. So that is just definitely a big thing I would advise. Bring your snacks, bring your tea, do whatever you can, because the
Save
food
that
on
for your
board
bag.
is just, it's a bit tricky sometimes, isn't it? So that's food, and that's packing.
What do you bring?
Oh, also, just on... bring decorations for your room as well, because you've got to make your space really homely. Usually, I've been quite lucky, like when I first get on board, we're docked somewhere that has like a big Walmart or something like that. So I go to Walmart, again, spend hundreds of dollars.
I actually got my mum to send me, she sent me a care package with like things and stuff, and she sent me like a big packet of photos of my family.
I always print loads of pics and bring them.
As we said, the ship walls are magnetic, so bring lots of hooks. You can bring fairy lights to hang on.
I bring
make it look
so
really
much,
nice.
guys. I have stuff like
hang
this.
Your pictures.
I have pictures everywhere. I have fairy lights everywhere. Singers, this is a good life hack as well. I've got a little humidifier going in the background, and the air on ships is very dry.
They pump the aircon.
You have a lot of aircon going on, especially in your cabins, and it's just not very good quality air. And obviously, you don't have balconies and stuff when you're in your crew cabins, so you don't get any fresh airflow, and it's very drying for your. It's just not good for your voice at all. So, singers. Number one thing, if you can, I ordered on Amazon, I think on my recent ones, just a little tiny humidifier, or my first contract I went and bought one in Walmart on that first day. You said Carnival.
Well, Carnival actually provided us ones. Like, I got given one. They said, you're a singer, here's your humidifier. So I thought, thank you very much.
Definitely something worthwhile. Like I said, if you're going on a ship, just check like where you're getting on board, and if you'll have a chance to go somewhere like Walmart, because then you don't have to take everything with you. You can go and get a bunch of blankets also, and pillows and magnets and stuff.
Definitely see what the people who are on board before you have, because they will be leaving and they'll have to get their luggage allowance down, so they'll normally be trying to get rid of things. I got things like hair dryers.
There's always stuff people leave
so many people were like, oh, I don't need this, like, do you want it? And I'll be like, actually,
I do the same. Like, all this crap that I bought in Walmart, I'm going to take that home with me. I literally brought like rugs for the floor, like I just make it so nice, but I'm not going to take all that home. I don't need all of that, so leave it on the ship. And there's always so much coming from the last cast, or like that accumulates in the cabin that you're in, because it's always going to be you go into the same cabins the previous cast was in, and so on. So there's almost always stuff left behind. I've had like humidifiers that people have left there and blankets. And
my hairdryer was a big one. I didn't bring a hairdryer with me, and they just had one. I was like, thank you very much.
Yeah, my first contract they had one. Yeah. So
kettles sometimes as well. They're a bit funny with kettles on ships.
You're not really allowed then.
No, but if someone has a secret kettle, it's like
we like on my recent contracts, because everyone was going into quarantine first. When people were going from the guest cabins to the crew cabins, everyone was like, I'm just gonna take this kettle. But I had my own that I got from Amazon, which is collapsible. It's silicone and it's collapsible like this. So you can squidge it into your suitcase, and then when it goes through the scanner, it doesn't look like a kettle.
So they never know.
So they don't really clock on, and they don't really go through your luggage when you first get on. Like, they're not... You can kind of bring it on, whereas...
They scan your bag, but they don't, like, go through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Whereas on Norwegian, I brought a kettle halfway through from Walmart, and I tried to smuggle it in, like, in a shoebox and, like, make it look like it was something else. But it was so annoying because, like, a bunch of us bought kettles and we all went through the security, and then he just decided to stop me out of everybody. The other 2 people with kettles got through and they didn't get stopped. And they were American, they weren't even English. So, like, I was like, please, all I wanted to do was make tea.
Most American people don't even know what a kettle is.
I know, they don't
just have
even
their
use
hot
them in
tap
America.
thing,
In America, so... But mine got confiscated, and I was really annoyed about it. But luckily, my girl Marquisha, she was like, you can just come and have tea at mine whenever you want. So that was handy.
I feel like I would really like to meet her, because you and her have a lovely bond.
Yeah, she's a superstar. Yeah, that's a good thing about ships. You sometimes just meet some besties
You do.
Like, yeah, it was amazing. But all of those things, very good to bring along. I don't know, that's that on that. Let's talk about... There's just so much to chat about, guys.
I know, we've already spoken for like an hour.
This is such a big contract.
It is.
A big topic.
Topic of conversation.
Just quickly, when you first get on board, I think we mentioned this, you go into install. So you have your rehearsals, usually on land, where you learn all your shows. You can have a lot of shows to learn, or not that many. So you had loads.
I did. I had 7 different performances that I had to be a part of mine. With Carnival, you're like the only sort of entertainment team on board as the production cast. So you're expected to do a show nearly every night. You have 1 day off a week. Some shows are longer than other. I had my 4 main shows, which are about 45 minutes long. You do them twice a night. And then we had some smaller shows as well, like the Welcome Aboard show. We had another one called Lip Sync Battle, which is now no longer a thing. We actually did have a small little like puppet show as well, and just other little shows that we would do as well. So there was a lot to learn, and I had to learn it in a very, very small space of time. I had to learn it with it all in 5 weeks, and you did that at their purpose-built studios that are on land in Florida. For Carnival, they're in Davie, just near to Fort Lauderdale, and then for other companies like Royal, they have them in Miami, and then I know Norwegian have them in Tampa, don't they?
Yeah.
So it is a lot to learn, but you get there with great difficulty, and you have lots of people there to help you learn everything. And they do, with my shows, they did a bit of chop and change. Like, we didn't learn just like one show, put that to bed and do it. Like, we learned like one number from one show, then we would learn like another number from another show. I know. So you had all these different things, and when you were piecing them all together, you were like, what show is this?
We didn't do it like that.
But I think it depends on your, for Carnival, I don't know what they're called for other companies, but at Carnival they're called your ship supervisors, and they're the people that basically teach you the shows. They're not the actual they're not the actual choreographers or vocal directors who like made the show. They're just the people that teach them and know what the choreographer intended, and directors and all that stuff, so they teach them to you.
That's a very heavy show package on Carnival. So like compared to Celebrity Apex, my most recent contract, it was great, especially for singers, because
you had a lovely life.
Only had 3 shows, period. That's it. Usually you might have, like, on Norwegian they called them bumpers, on Celebrity they called them like theme nights, where you go and have like kind of mini shows here and there, like little bits and bobs to do. But on Apex, it's a very small show package for the singers, especially just the 3 main shows, and that is it. And normally I've done a Broadway cabaret, things like that for the singers, nothing. So it was lovely jubbly, but we would learn 1 show at a time. And actually on Norwegian as well, I just had 3 shows, plus a Broadway cabaret, and then the dancers. Oh, and then we had Welcome Aboard, and we had Let's Get Loud on the Pool Deck. So you there's like other little bits and bobs that you might have to do.
Yeah. But rehearsal life is lovely though, I have to say. Like you turn up, you're on land still, so you don't have to worry about all these like issues with Wi-Fi. You have like nice laundry rooms.
You do work
you have nice
6 days a week.
You do, yeah. You only have 1 day off, and you do get paid considerably less during your rehearsal period.
I generally always quite enjoy rehearsals, but even when I'm doing like a normal show, I like the rehearsals. It's like all very exciting.
It's lovely as well because
you're busy. And
you're constantly with like all the other casts who are going on to other different ships. So you actually make a lot of friends.
You get to go and watch. So when you're in rehearsals, obviously you learn your shows, and then once you've learnt the show, you'll do an office run, which you'll...
Fun run, they're called on Carnival.
Really? You'll run the show in the studios, and they'll invite the other casts that are rehearsing at the time. They can come and watch, and they'll get all the people from the office, like the casting directors, maybe all the install directors, and all the different people that are involved, like... Because you're obviously at the base, you're at the studio, so there's lots of like the office people can come in and watch, and it's always quite fun because you get to kind of like run the show. You don't have costumes and stuff usually, like
just wear black.
We've always been in all black, but they're quite good. You just get to like do a little mini run, and then like it's nice when you're there because you get to go and watch the office runs of like lots of other shows as well.
You just get like all these lovely performances.
So then
you're like,
you
let's
can
go and watch this.
Get to know which shows you like, and then if you're gonna want to do another contract, you'll be like, oh, I've seen this show in rehearsals, like that.
I'd like to be part of that one.
To do that one,
and then you can bid for that.
So then you can request it. So it's really fun, and it's nice. You get to meet lots of people. You might have friends that are rehearsing for other stuff at the same time. For Celebrity and Royal Caribbean rehearse in the same place. So if you've got people even on a different company, if they're with Royal and you're with Celebrity, it can be quite busy if there's lots of people at the studios at the same time. Like it's quite lively. It can be quite fun, and then you've got time off to go and do whatever. So when I was in Tampa,
chill by the pool.
We went to Disney.
Oh, see,
I mean, it's quite far because you go from Tampa to Orlando, but
Tampa's not too far though from Orlando.
It's not as far. It's like 3 hours.
Yeah,
or something.
if you're in Miami, it's a bit further.
Yeah,
it's
in Miami,
more like 3 to 4 hours. Yeah,
it's longer than that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just there on tour, but we
you could do an overnight. I know James did that. I think they went on the Saturday night and then they were there or something. But yeah, rehearsals are fun, but it can be quite intense. It's like 6 days a week, especially I know for the dancers. Like they just have so much material thrown at them. They'll usually, in my experience, they'll have aerial rehearsals usually beforehand. So they'll fly out earlier than the singers and they'll all do aerial training, aerial conditioning, because a lot of the shows have like a lot of aerial work in them. So they might have to go early, learn all the aerial, then they'll like get selected whoever's going to do the aerial numbers in the show, but they all have to learn it. Then they'll be choosing the people who are going to be swings for the aerial. So and then the singers will come out later.
But even as a singer, for me in Carnival, because I did have such a big amount of shows, and also as a singer-dancer as well, there was a lot of choreography and a lot of lyrics to learn as well. And at the time, I actually, because I was so young, I was 19, like just turned 19, I didn't actually know many of the songs. Like they were all like older songs that I just didn't know that everyone seems to know. So it was like a lot of lyrics to learn, a lot of different tunes to learn, a lot of different choreography to learn, and it is all just chucked at you at one go, and you are expected to just retain it and always be going over all of this
I
material.
remember, you'll remember this as well. On Norwegian, I did a show called Elements. It's one of their big shows. Yeah,
it's famous, I feel, for like cruise ship performers to know. Like I even know about it, and I didn't even work for Norwegian.
I feel like a lot of people know about it. Yeah, it's a great show.
People talk about it a lot.
It never used to have singers in, and then they added singers into it, and it goes obviously through the elements. And then there's like
the fire,
water. Earth, fire, wind, and
what
did I miss? Water.
Snow.
Anyway, there's like a water section, and like I think we started with elements when I did Norwegian.
I remember you telling me about
it was
this.
like
So
the
funny.
first week of rehearsals, and like you're not singing any words. It's all just like the earth section. We're like standing at the back dressed as monks, just doing all this strange chanting, being like "Oh, me, oh, la, no, mane, oh." It's like very weird. And then
Isn't it like
there's
blop, blop,
there's a water
blop, blop, blop.
section where the dancers do like bungee, so they have like a trapeze and they like jump off it, and they're dressed as little fish. It's super cute. They have little flappers on and they're just like doing flips on the thing. We're stood on the balconies like making water sound effects.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the first things we learned, and I was like, what on earth is going on? It was literally like we'd be stood up there going blip blop bloop blip blop, but it's like you have sheet music for it, and it's like
So it has to be in time.
notated
Yeah.
on the sheet music, and it's got notes. And then there's like a bit where we like made like a SpongeBob noise, like we were like and we were like, oh my god, it's like literally like a dolphin noise or something. It was one of the first
I remember you
things
were like,
I
I
learned.
can't keep a straight face. You're just there like.
I'm very bad at like breaking character, and like I was just fan. So I was like walking around the pool like after rehearsals and on my day off, like with my headphones
You hate
on.
weird stuff as well. I love it. I'm like, oh
Like-
yeah, give me that weirdo like contemporary like
Strange
wah, like
stuff.
making noises, but you always find it so funny.
Like, so I would literally remember just like sunbathing on my days off, just listening to this in my ear, being like bleep bloop bloop, like trying to memorize it. It was so funny. Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's
It's a lot.
it's quite a lot. Like it can be a lot of material to learn, but like it's usually pretty fun. And
Yeah.
So that's kind of rehearsals, and then you go onto the ship. And you then enter a period of time called install, which can last quite a long time, and it's like probably the most difficult part of the contract.
Yeah.
Once you're out of install, you're in the clear, but during install, can be intense.
Yeah, and I think install is just, I found it very overwhelming because not only are you having to put on these huge production shows and knowing how the stage works, because most of the stages move, they rotate, they have you have pyros, you have to do all of this training. Not only are you dealing with installing these shows, you're also having to adjust to moving your life onto living on the ship, which is just very, very different
especially
to land
for
as
the
well.
first contract.
It is just very overwhelming.
lots
There's just
to take
so
in.
much. I didn't have one moment to sleep. I remember being so tired.
Yeah, you're
I
doing
missed
rehearsals.
my poor
all
friend
the time.
Naomi. I missed her birthday, and I didn't even realise. Like, I didn't go to the crew bar because I was so tired. Like, I literally, and I felt really bad.
Because
sorry, Naomi.
Again, it depends. Sometimes you can do a handover with the previous cast.
That's what I did.
I did that on Silhouette because, again, we had no rehearsals. We went straight into the ship, so the old cast was there, which was kind of fun because we got like a couple months where we were both on board, and all
That's
we were
nice.
doing was rehearsals, but like not an install. Like we
Yeah.
were learning the shows, but. Either you do a handover like you did, and the previous cast is still performing their shows, and they'll be closing their shows as you're
Beginning.
teching them and opening them. Or, like for Norwegian, I went straight on. We were in the cruise terminal queuing up to get in, and our install director was like drilling with us the Let's Get Loud and the Welcome Aboard because we were opening it that night. And we just went straight into it. So it's like kind of a bit of a hectic time because obviously you still have guests on board, so they need to have their entertainment program fully up and running. So whether that's the old cast still doing some shows or you opening shows straight away, but you can't use the theatre.
No.
It's not like you're on land and the theatre's ready for you to be used 24/7 to rehearse and to tech stuff. You can only use it when it's not being used for other shows and other events.
Because
during
there's
the day.
obviously paying guests on there expecting entertainment.
Like still doing their regular shows. So then you have like a lot of late night rehearsals. Like after the evening shows have been done, you'll go and start rehearsals and do like 10 till midnight or even later, and then do it really early in the morning, do it in between, do it in random venues and stuff. And it's just like, and then once you get like sort of halfway through install and you've opened some shows but not other shows, it's like wild because you'll be literally performing in some shows, and I think we said this before, you do a full tech run of every show on the day of the show throughout the entire contract. You'll do a tech run at some point during the day, and then you do 2 shows in the evening. So that's like a big chunk of time. If you're still in install, you'll be doing rehearsals for everything else before and after all of that as well. So you might do rehearsals till midday, then 2:00 do your tech run of your other show, and then do your shows in the evening, then finish them, get changed, go straight into tech until like midnight for your new shows. And it's just like this, your schedule is just like very intense. You don't get much sleep.
No.
You don't get much shore time, if any. Like,
I found it quite a lot.
You just don't get time really to get off the ship. We didn't for Norwegian. We were on the ship for like 2 weeks during this. You just don't have the time.
I didn't get off for about a month, actually, I don't think.
Yeah,
it was a lot.
Like, and especially if it's your first contract, you're sort of thinking like, oh, I get to go on the ship and then I get to go to the beach and do all this.
No.
But like in install, you don't have any time to do that. So, and then also, and this is another thing, like when you're in America, it can be really difficult to like stay in touch with family and friends because you're rehearsing all the time, and then when you do finish rehearsals, it's like 5 hours ahead of the UK.
Yeah, you do have a time difference
you
as well.
Can't like get hold of people because it's the middle of the night in the UK when you finish at midnight or whatever, and then during the daytime you're in rehearsals, so you can't call people. So it can be like quite isolating, quite difficult.
Absolutely.
You just have to like just get your head down, get through install, and then once you've opened all the shows, you can like take a breath, and everyone, because it can get tense.
Take
it
a
can
break.
Get
Sorry about Hamilton there.
for the summer, let's go upstate.
Oh, beautiful.
Sorry.
I threw you off.
By the end of install, like everyone's getting a bit tense. Like,
a bit
people
tired.
are very tired. People are just exhausted. Like your creative team are probably getting tired with you. Like everyone's just like a bit worse for wear. So
it's a lot actually.
You just
to
have
ask
to
for
like
people.
push through install. And then after that, you do get all of those nice perks of like living at sea, but it
That
can
is
be very
definitely
intense.
the most intense bit, is the install.
And then to make it worse, you'll probably have to deal with reblocks, which you will get in any performing job, but I feel like they're very, very, very common on cruise ships. Like usually during install, someone will get injured or ill because the schedules are so intense. So like for singers, you are singing all the time, so it's so important to like look after your voice. And I've said this before, but I'm very Rachel Berry. I've got like steamers, humidifiers. I've got my nebulizer now.
Oh yeah, that's very good.
All
ruined my face.
like everything. I am like obsessed with like throat coat tea. Markeisha got me onto that in Tampa. And like you just have to do what you can to really look after your voice. I mean, I won't really be going to crew bar much during install. I'm just like, I need my sleep. I need my voice to be okay because you're just doing sound checks. And like on Apex, we used in-ears, which are like, for people who don't know, they're like little kind of mini headphones that attach to your mic pack, and like that's how you can hear. You won't have onstage monitor speakers that are feeding you back the sound. Sometimes you will, but depending on the stage and on the theatre. We had just the in-ears that go over your ear. Because like my ears used to get really sweaty though, and they used to pop out all the time. Yeah, so. I had to tape mine on in on Apex, but like the way the stage is on Apex is like it's big round kind of like immersive stage, so you can't really have monitors on stage, so you have to have in-ears. But then like on Silhouette we didn't need them, we could just have on stage monitors. But we'd have to go, because you can personalize what you hear in your headphones. Basically you can like, and I loved it. Side note, you work with like a live band mostly on these ships, so you'll be doing your shows with a band, but it can take a lot of time to like get the sound right in your in-ears, because if it's wrong, it's really, really difficult. And you've got to have all of your singers, like, so on Apex we have 4 singers, you've got to have all 4 singers balanced nicely, So it would be like, oh, I want to turn this person down so I can hear my part really loudly. The drums are way too loud. I need them down. I need piano up because I need to hear the key. And vice versa. Like, oh, I'm really out of time. I need the drums up. And then also, your band is changing quite a lot. So in the middle of the contract, you might have to go and like do another session with you. And it can be really difficult to get right. But once it's right, it's amazing. I love in-ears.
I love them as well. I don't like having to hear like people's harmonies that I don't want to hear.
I know, literally.
I like to be able to adjust the volume. I don't want to be like, I find it a lot when I'm on a contract where I don't have in-ears. I'll be like, well, the sound sounds horrible for me. And someone will be like, I think it's wonderful sound. And I'll be like, I don't like this. That I like to be able to hear it really loud.
This is another thing. The technicians can often be like crew members that have cross-trained from other positions. So they might not be people like on land. You'll have someone who's been a stage technician for this theatre for years and they're like absolutely expert at what they do. You might have someone like that, or you might have someone that's just like used to work in housekeeping and then was like, oh, there's a position for tech. Oh, I'm gonna go and learn that. And then so you get real mixed levels of experience with the sound and stuff, which
you sometimes get the best people or sometimes
can
like
be
the worst.
Impossible. And then like if you're using the monitors, like on Silhouette we had a running joke because every single tech I'm like looking at the sound guy going, can I get me up? I can't hear myself. Hear myself. I need me up. And I was like on these really random low harmonies, and I'm not a low person.
No.
I'm like soprano gal, and I'm like I cannot hear myself underneath the top line. I can't hear myself doing this random harmony. So it can be super annoying because then if your sound isn't right, it's just a nightmare. But so singers might have to come and do like vocal rehearsals or working with your in-ears or working with the sound like really late at night, and you're like, I can't be belting like these crazy massive songs at midnight. Like who can sing like that? Or vice versa, you might have to go and do it really early in the morning when it's like my voice is not
ready for
to
this.
be skrelting at this time of day, but you have to do it because you don't have the flexibility of like doing whatever time is normal because you have to fit it in amongst everything else. So vocal health is like very, very just look after your voice. I just would not really be hitting up crew bar and stuff during install. And obviously the same goes for the dancers. Like obviously they're pushing their bodies so much, doing aerial, doing like so much choreo.
Once you have installed though, like you know what you're doing, you're very comfortable.
It can be
so
really nice because then
really relax.
You actually do get a lot of free time. If you think about it, I had 3 shows really. So the rest, if your cruises can vary in length, you might have 3 and 4 day cruises, in which case obviously your schedule's going to be full out because you have to do shows all the time. Or you might have a 7-day cruise, which is probably the most common. Obviously, a week-long cruise. If you have 3 shows, then the rest of the days, you're pretty much chilling. You might have some other little bits and bobs to do. If you have a 10-day cruise, even better. If you have a 2-week cruise...
I had a 14-day cruise.
Slaying, we had a couple. So good. That's really what you want, guys. Just have a look at your contract when you get it through and just like.
But it depends though. Like you could find that a bit boring. Like you might like
people do. I know some of the dancers on Silhouette. Like when we were on the long cruises, they were like, "This is just so boring. Like I have all these days off and nothing to do."
I would find it boring. Like I quite liked having my one day off because you'd have the days off anyway. Like you would just work in the evening.
One day off, bugger that.
No, I think I would have liked 2 to be honest, but. I mean, you had all day off anyway,
and you
would only work in the evening, so like it wouldn't really faze me. I wouldn't feel like I was overworked, and it would give me something to do.
Even on a show day, you'll still have chances to get off to shore. Yeah, obviously, you just have to bear it in mind when your tech run is. So, like, if you've got like a really good team, like on NCL, and your dance captain will usually sort of be the one who makes the call, but you could just be like, "Can we just do a really early tech?" Get it out of the way, and then by like 11 a.m. we can go off, have all day ashore, and then come back on at like 5 and start getting ready for shows. So even on show days, it's not like you're working a 9 to 5. Like you still, even if you just went off for lunch, you can go off and get lunch, get a coffee, come back on. You do get a nice amount of time off, so you really can, like, as entertainment, you can really go and explore the ports.
You can, which is really fantastic. It's a wonderful perk.
And a lot of time to get to the gym, do whatever you're going to do on board. Like, it's, sometimes you can have even too much time off, but I never think that, because I every single port day, I'm like, get me off that ship. Yeah. Especially when I'm in the Caribbean. I bloody love it. Get me in the sun. Like, do you think I'm going to waste a day in the Caribbean islands? Absolutely not. I'm getting to the beach every single day. I'm getting a tan. And then you will usually have a crew tanning area. Like, so I think you were different, but we weren't allowed to go and, like, sit on the main pool deck and
I was allowed to sit with the guests.
No, we weren't allowed to do that on any of my ships. You had, like, a special,
there was, like, a crew
designated crew tanning area, but that's like a bit more quiet.
That I wanted to go.
But it wasn't crew deck. It would be, like, still a guest tanning deck, but it would be, like, a special area that's a bit more quiet that people don't really go to. So you would not be allowed to go on, like, a bed right next to the pool. It would be like they had on Silhouette all these some beds, like, in the front of the gym, right at the front of the ship, that, like, guests didn't really know about because it was just a bit out of the way. So we could just go tan there. But you do have a crew deck 6 forward in my experience. I think on all the ships.
Mine was deck 4.
And it's usually, like, the front of the ship, and it's an outdoor area. You can go and chill, but I, like, wouldn't really, like, love to go and tan out there, because there's obviously tons of crew members, loads of guys just sitting around, like, smoking. You're, like, the bridge can, like, look down and see everyone, and there's, like, I don't know, I feel like the cast, you do get a bit targeted by crew members, because it's like, look at all these young sexy dancers. So, like, as a girl, like, I wouldn't really want to be sitting on deck 6, like, in my bikini tan, because you just have a lot of eyes on you, and it's a bit like,
and then they try and chat to you in the bar,
and, like, people that, like, you don't really necessarily want to be, like, mixing with. It's not like you're just contained with the cast or people that you know and you're comfortable with. So, like, generally the cast would go and, like, tan somewhere else. But so even on sea days, that's actually something nice you can go and do as well. It's just go get some air and tan in your nice areas. So in terms of crew area, you will have a crew bar. You'll have the deck 6 forward, or whatever the equivalent is, your kind of outdoor crew area, which usually has a bar as well, and you can go there in the evening and, like, get stuff.
You got the crew mess and staff
crew
mess, if you have one of those.
Crew gym, the crew games room. Again, the quality of these places will depend on the ship. So, like,
the newer ships, they're a bit nicer normally.
On Silhouette, we had, like, a little crew bar called Mingles, and it's kind of like a pub vibe. And then there was, like, a nightclub that we never really went. Actually, it was shut the whole time anyway, but, like, there was, like, a nightclub where you could smoke inside, and it was, like, full on, like a bit dirty. Yeah,
we also had a lot of crew parties, and they would close off it was called the Serenity deck on our ship, which is, like, the spa area for guests, but they would close it off to guests, and we'd just have huge parties outside. Or they would sometimes just close off, like, one of the lounges, like one of the back, like, smaller theatres.
They will put crew events on, because, again,
and they're on most weeks
a lot of the crew don't have the same privileges that the entertainment and the cast have. So, like, the crew welfare, if they're good, they'll put on a lot of things. They'll put on bingo nights, they'll put on, like, quiz nights and this, wine and cheese nights. Similarly, like, they'll close off a crew area and do, like, a big party.
Guest area.
They'll close off, like, the roof, and we did, like, lawn parties. They'll do, like, crew Halloween parties.
Yeah, like Crazy Golf we had, like, they shut off that.
Random
we did,
stuff.
like, the crew high ropes at night sometimes, like, we had, like, high ropes course.
So that's always fun. And then, obviously, as well, the cast and the entertainment will have their own parties as well. We had quite a lot of backstage parties.
Yeah, you have, like, an entertainment little do's as well. We had like lots of department
end of
things.
install parties. They'll usually have like prosecco and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and be like,
yeah,
woo, we got through install.
yeah.
I mean,
I remember that because I was too scared to unpop the bottle. I was like, oh, I was going to do it. And I had to get someone else to do it. I was too scared.
That was my end of install party on Apex was actually on my birthday. We opened Crystallise, which was our last show, on my actual birthday.
I like that word.
But I will say on Silhouette, COVID contract, we had all these like lovely crew facilities, but like Mingles, the crew bar, was open for like a week and then it shut because of COVID, and it was shut for like majority of the contract. Everything was bloody shut. So we just relied on, we did a lot of backstage parties, just like contained within the cast. Like we couldn't obviously mingle that much with the rest of the crew because everything was shut. But if you're looking to like socialise, you've got the option now. Everything's back and running, obviously. You can go to Crew Bar. On Apex, I loved it. They had a pub called Stacey's, and it's very fancy. Like, they had a coffee shop as well. Wonderful. It's called Daily Brew. But I loved the crew areas on the Edge class celebrity ships.
Really nice.
Very stunning. My gosh, they could be guest areas.
Oh, wow.
They're very
jealous.
Whereas normally the crew areas are a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah,
like,
they're
you
a bit...
literally, it's like below deck, you literally have the like guest areas, which are like insane luxury cruise line Titanic vibes, like absolutely stunning, very fancy. And you go down to like deck 2 and it's literally like there's no one's painted the walls, nobody's put up anything nice. Like the crew bar is very basic.
Yeah,
it's kind of like messy nights, like, but it's fun. But on like Apex, oh my god, the crew areas were so lovely.
My crew bar was actually pretty horrible. Apparently it was one of the worst in Carnival, which is sad. Yeah, I took my mum to it.
You have good nights there, but
yeah,
it's
you
not
have a
always
great
the
time,
nicest.
but the actual place is a bit like...
So you can usually, if you want to like go out and have fun, you absolutely can. If you want to go and enjoy the crew areas, like, so if it's someone's birthday, for instance, the cast might decide to like get dressed up. You obviously have to wear your guest appropriate stuff. You can get all nice and glam, go upstairs, maybe go to the sushi restaurant, because you can go to all the restaurants. Some of them you have to pay for, just like the guests do.
Dining
you
rooms
can
are
still
normally a bit
do it.
more
You have to book them in advance, but you can go. And then you can have a nice dinner out, go to the bars, go to the guest bars. I used to just love going out in guest area because I liked getting dressed up. I liked having like nice cocktails and nice drinks. Like on Norwegian, the crew bar, you only have wine and beer.
Yeah.
On Celebrity, you have spirits as well and stuff, but like it's still a different experience. If you go to Martini bar, you can get all the nice fancy martinis. They're still quite expensive. You get a crew discount.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you still have to pay and they can be expensive. But at the end of the day, you're, like, living on the ship. So, like, if you have to pay for, like, Wi-Fi and drinks and nice stuff to make you feel nice, then you're going to do it. So I used to just love going out. And we could go to the nightclub. It was called the Bliss Lounge on Norwegian. And it was, like, basically a nightclub. So we'd go there and party the night away. And but you do have to be a bit careful because what is the rule about alcohol on the ships?
I don't know what.
Oh, well, you can't drink.
Oh,
you're not allowed to have alcohol in your system because
when you're working,
any time.
I was like, I don't know.
You're a crew member, so at any time you could be like having to deal with an emergency.
Yeah,
and
you
like
could.
having to have responsibilities. So you're never like basically off duty, kind of. So you have to maintain like
a specific limit.
Alcohol limit at all times.
I was in a bit of a difficult situation actually when I was on board because it was an American company and the legal age to drink there is 21. And I'd only just turned 19 when I worked for Carnival. So I had very different rules. I was allowed to drink in the crew bar because I was technically not in America because I was in the middle of the ocean. But in guest areas, I couldn't actually drink anything from the guest bars. So I would always have to have like a Coke.
On my contracts, the under 21s couldn't drink anywhere.
Anywhere.
Drink
Yeah,
in the
I
crew
was
bar.
very lucky.
You'd have to just do a bit
I
of a
could
sneaky-
in the crew bar. I was actually allowed to order and pay for my own drinks. But if I went up to the,
they weren't allowed.
I went to the piano bar. I went to the Alchemy bar. I went to like the Red
Obviously,
Frog
there's
pub, and I wasn't
ways
allowed to.
around it.
Yeah, but my folio card, like
It
my
has a big thing on.
yeah,
saying
it would
you're
be
under
like
it.
this person is not 21. So I'd be like, oh, can I just have a Coke?
Like we would like mix drinks and bring them in a water bottle or like pass somebody a drink under the table, but you have to be very careful about it because again they're very strict with rules.
Yeah.
And then you just have to really keep an eye on the under 21s because like obviously if we're allowed to be drinking, it's one thing, but if you're underage and you're obviously getting sloshed, you're way over the limit of what you're allowed to be. It's literally like 0.4% alcohol or something like that. Like the limit of what you're allowed to drink, even off duty, is very, very small. And obviously, most of the time, people aren't really sticking to that because you just go and get drunk. But you just have to be a bit clever about it. Like if someone's getting a bit too rowdy, we'd be like, right, we're going to take you back to the cabin because we can't get in trouble.
No.
Like, you will literally get immediate dismissal if they breathalyze you and you're over the limit, which most of the time you would be over the limit. So you just have to really... I know on NCO as well, they did, like, just random spot checks of people every week. Like, they just pick random crew members to have a breathalyze test at any point. I never had to do it. But again, like if you have to be careful because if you go out to the beach and you're day drinking, you're drinking lovely cocktails at the beach, which like everybody is doing. But then you come back on the ship. As you're coming back on, if you're acting too wasted, they'll breathalyze you. If you're over the limit, which you probably would be, you would just get sent home. You had people sent home, didn't you?
I did actually. One male dancer on my ship, I won't say his name, but he was actually fired 2 weeks before we ended our contract. But he was actually drinking like before shows and he was drunk during shows, so he was reported
No
and
comment on that.
immediately fired.
Broadway cabaret silhouette cast. If you know, you know.
But no, he was like immediately fired. Like, and he had security set outside his cabin until they could get him off. They got him. They didn't even wait for us to get back to Florida. They just ejected him in
They really will.
in the Dominican
They will
Republic.
Just
They just get rid of you.
get you off
say
the
bye.
ship. It does sound quite scary. They are very, very
Yeah, the Dominican
strict.
Republic as well. I was like, oh god.
They're very strict with their rules on a ship. There is a lot of rules, and which is why a lot of people, like I feel like people that work on ships either love it or they hate it, and one of the reasons they might not enjoy it so much is because you do have to abide by a lot of rules. You don't have as much freedom as you have in normal life. You have to really stick to like all these really strict rules, and you have people enforcing them, and it's just a bit intense and a bit scary. You have to do, when you get on board, you have to do loads of training as well. Safety training, you have to go to... Again, this is why install is just crazy, because even if you've done ships before, you will have certain trainings that will last for a while, but most of your trainings expire after like 6 months. So every 6 months you have to go and attend all these trainings again. And like... You might have to do online training, you might have to go and sit in a classroom, and then you have to do like certain exams about fire safety, because that's really the big thing on the ship. Obviously, you're not allowed any candles, you're not allowed any naked flames. Like,
No.
big no-no. Again, you'll get
Fire
fired.
on a ship is very, very serious.
You will get fired for fire, because it's like the worst
Yeah,
thing in the
because
world.
if the ship burns down, the ship goes down.
There's no firefighters.
No.
I mean, there is
Well, there is a
firefighters.
fire
There's
team.
no like, you can't just like call the fire brigade. If the ship's burning, you're in the middle of the ocean, no one can come and help you. So they're like really, really strict on that. You can't have like any flames and stuff in your cabin. I mean, if you want some incense or sage or something, there's ways to go around it. I don't know personally.
I personally wouldn't do
But
that.
some people can put socks over the vents if you were to use.
I wouldn't recommend this switch.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
just
don't use
know
anything like
that is a thing. Again, at your own risk. You're not allowed to do anything like that. So, But you do have to go to all these trainings, and my gosh, sometimes you're like, oh my god. I'm a bit of a nerd, so like I just went and sat at the front of the class with my notebook and like took it really seriously. And I was like, I probably didn't need to like actually go home
Study.
and revise and like do all of this. But you have to, some trainings you have to obtain before you get on board. So you have something called a STCW.
Yeah.
So again, with all of your paperwork you're doing before getting on the ship, you need to have a STCW. Some companies you'll be able to just do it online, and then once you've passed it and you get your certificate, you just bring that. You have to print it and bring it along. Other times, like with NCL, my first contract, once you get on the ship, if you're new, you'll go and do STC training in person. Go and attend, like you have to go X amount of sessions, attend the course.
That's what I think I had to do.
I had to do that, pass the test, then they physically hand you a certificate, and
Yeah.
then now I just bring that to all of my contracts. And the same with like what's the crowd management training. There's like all these different trainings, and each company will do it slightly different. They will tell you what their procedure is, but you do have to do a lot
Some
of
ships
training.
you actually have to go and do like a full-on course of how to be a firefighter
We
at
had
your
to
own
do-
expense.
we
I've
had
had that
to
for
do,
like Viking and things.
On board, we had to do firefighting training at one point, where we had to put the whole kit on and go. I hated it because I'm just way too small to fit into this kit, so I was just drowning in this massive firefighting outfit. You can't see anything, and you're like holding on to people and like going through. We were like in a teen club, and it was just. And then we had to go, and this was so horrible. We had to go and do the life raft flipping.
Oh
when we were
yeah,
on
I never
board.
had to do that actually.
But half my cast got to do it when we first got on board, and we were in like Nassau, so they just went in and in the Caribbean and did the life raft training, and half of us just didn't make the cut, so we didn't have to do it then, and we were like, great, we're off the hook, like we just haven't had to do that training, that's handy. Then like halfway through our contract, they put our names on this list, and they were like, you have to go and now do it.
No.
When we were in Canada,
That's
at
so
6 a.m. in the
sad.
morning, we had to go to the pool deck in Canada in September. It was
Cold.
freezing. Like, you'd be at drill in scarves and
Oh my
coats.
gosh.
It was freezing. And then they were like, yeah, so just jump in the pool at 6 a.m. and flip these life
Oh
rafts.
my god.
I was literally, I hated it.
I never had to do it. I got let off the hook.
And I was like not good at it. And also, I'm like a small person. This life jacket did not fit me. I've since discovered that I need to wear a child's life vest.
Aww.
Because the life
This is
vest is just, it just doesn't fit me. So I jumped in the pool, and then the shoulders of the life vest just rised up to my head. So I'm like trying to swim in the pool, and this life vest is just
I
over
can just
the
imagine
top
you like,
of my
"Help."
head. I was like, oh my god, I do not want to be in here. But we did get to go in the hot tubs afterwards to heat up, so that was alright. But I literally went back to my cabin, put on like 5 layers of
Oh my
pyjamas
God.
and my dressing gown, and I was in my bed like literally crying, like this is so
Aw.
cold. But yes, there's a lot of training that you have to do, and there's no way around it.
No.
Even now, like I've done tons of ships, I'll still get on another ship and then have to go through all of the onboarding training.
It is
You
a
just have to
process.
sit there.
You have to just deal with it.
Yeah, and some of them you go online and you have to go through all these online trainings, so you're just like bing, 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 bing. But it is what it is. It's just part and parcel. That goes on to drills. Like we've spoken about, you do have responsibilities to like
You do.
be involved with the drills, which
Yeah,
is
making sure that all the
basically-
life rafts are loaded safely and...
well, I think it just depends on ship to ship, like
Yeah.
what your responsibilities are.
Yeah, you get given a duty.
Like on NCL,
You
I
get
didn't
training on
really
that.
have to do anything. I just went and stood at my muster station. Actually,
That's what I had to do. I had to demonstrate how
you
to put on the
basically
life
get
jacket.
given an emergency card. On your emergency card, it will tell you where your muster station is.
And you get a
So
hat.
if you're wondering what the hell do all these words mean, this is just like your emergency drill. If something happened to the ship, if there was a fire, could be a security incident, someone's found with a suspicious package, or there's like violence, or somebody's got weapons on board, it could be anything, any kind of like emergency situation that happens, a lost child,
Yeah.
it could be whatever. There is emergency procedure obviously for everything, and it has to be like really drilled and really you have to every single ship has to do a weekly crew drill to make sure that they're really like on the ball if something does happen, because like I said, you're in the middle of the ocean, so you can't
anything could happen
have
at any
anyone
time.
come and help you, and it's quite strict. That's why like security is very strict on the ships. So you get given an emergency card. It will say where your muster station is. So there will be different sections of the ship called muster stations where the guests would go and congregate if any of the emergency alarms were sounded. So the theatre's always a big one, because obviously you can pack loads of guests in there. The casino is one. The restaurants. So there'll
we
be
had like
different
a conference centre in ours as well. That was like a good place to just pile people into.
Yeah, so there'll be different sections like that. You have different like code words for each of the different emergency situations. So you have one for fire, which is usually like Bravo. You'll have like man overboard is Oscar, and they'll say Oscar, and but you'll learn all of that in training.
Yeah.
And then every single week you'll have to do crew drills, which are like not fun.
Not just fun. They just take a really long time.
They're so boring, guys.
This is
It's
where
not,
I got
difficult.
my telling off and had to go to the staff captain.
Stand there and like doing a drill hungover is the worst thing in the world. You just have to stand there
it's always
for
really
hours.
early, and you're like,
I've done a couple where you've just been absolutely dead, and like sometimes you're just standing on the open deck. Like,
yeah,
where
and
the
it's
life
sometimes
rafts are,
really hot,
just
like boiling,
hot.
and you're like,
or I've done them in Canada, and you're just standing outside in the freezing cold, like in the rain, like. Ugh, it's gross. But you'll have a different responsibility, and it will say what it is on your emergency card.
Yeah.
So like, sometimes I don't have any responsibility. I just have to go and stand there and do crowd management. But obviously, when we're doing crew drills, you don't have any guests there because it's not a real emergency.
No.
So you don't have any crowd management to do. Just in the event that there was guests, you would just be managing the crowd. But so then on a weekly basis, you're just standing there for hours. It can take so long sometimes.
You do, though, at the beginning of every cruise, you have to do a... What is it called? It's like not a drill. Yeah, it is a drill.
Yeah, it's like a...
When you have to teach the guests of what to
However, this has very much changed since COVID.
Oh, really?
Which is literally the best thing ever, because they couldn't have all the guests come and
Crowd.
basically they would simulate a drill for the guests when they first get on board on the embark day, so they will know where to go and stuff like that.
What to do if that's an issue.
Again, it was the same process as a normal drill. It's just really long-winded, and you had to go and stand there and help the guests. But because you couldn't gather like that during COVID, they got rid of it, and they now do like. And this is the same on all the cruise ships that I'm aware of. Might be different for some, but I believe this is mainly the way you do it now. You have like a little online, looks like a phone, and once the guests get on board, they will have to go and check in at their muster station. So it will say on their cruise card and on their app like where to go. You'd need to go there, and then we would be on a rotation at Celebrity, like take it in turns to go and have to do the muster duty, and basically you do like 2-hour shift, standing at one of the muster stations, checking the guests in on the little thing, and then showing them maybe how to put on a life jacket, and talking them through, just saying like, this is your muster station, this is where you come in case of an emergency, the emergency signal is 7 short 1 long blast, come straight from your cabin, blah blah blah. You have a speech that they tell you, and you would be in charge of doing that, but that's it. You just check all the guests in, and they go and do it independently, rather than like everyone gather at the same time. So that's the guest one, and it's made it a lot quicker, and it's just better for
I
everyone
would
involved.
love that.
But the crew one, everyone's basically has to do that every week pretty much. And it's just very boring. You might have different responsibilities. Like, I was technically, I believe, on my most recent contract, I think I was like muster station assistant, and I just did nothing. Just pretended like I didn't have that on my card.
It was very easy.
And no one really asked me. I was in the casino, and I'd just literally go right to the back of the casino and just, oh man, you just stand there for hours on end doing nothing.
Yeah.
You can't really you're not really allowed to like talk to anyone or do stuff. I mean, it just depends. Like, if you have good people on your muster station, like on Silhouette, I was with my guitarist.
I used to talk to the guests.
And
the guests would just chat to me. They'd be like, "Where are you from?" And I'd be like, England, and then they like talk to me.
Usually it's on a port day, so the guests are like getting off the ship, so they don't have to.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking still about when you did it with the guests.
No, I'm talking about
crew ones.
I never had to do it with the guests. Actually, it was just answers.
That's so nice.
But when you do the crew ones, like obviously, yeah, if you have good crew. If you have your friends and people you know on the bus station, it's alright because you can have a bit of a chin wag. But so like on Silhouette,
a chin wag.
I used to have like a riot with our guitarist Pablo. I was like friends with him, and we would just be chatting absolute nonsense the whole time, like being really loud and be like dancing around because we were bored.
Oh my God.
And then we were in this like entertainment court, and then there's like a balcony above, and then like some of the cast and like our friends would be on the top level looking down, just being like, what the hell are you two doing?
Yeah.
we're just trying to make the time pass. But that's an annoying thing that you have to do. But you know.
Anyway, we've been talking for a very long time. We've been talking for 2 hours now.
No, we haven't, because that was running for ages before we started.
Well, almost 2 hours.
Let's see, actually, the time. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Anyway, we have been talking for quite a while. Not quite 2 hours. But that I feel like we've covered a lot of it.
We have.
There's still quite a lot of pros and cons that we can talk about, but just in general, we would both advocate definitely for working on cruises. They're an amazing way to travel, to earn incredible money.
Yeah, and you save a lot of money too. You save so much. Because you're not spending anything, you're just living.
Well, no, that is no. I'm gonna myth bust that.
Oh, okay.
I really thought that would be my life, working on cruises. Oh, you don't spend anything. You just get like these massive paychecks, and you just get to travel. You do pay for stuff. You pay a bomb for Wi-Fi.
Oh,
if you want to stay in touch with people, I was like, I'm not going to not talk to my family. I'm going to have to buy Wi-Fi. So spend loads on Wi-Fi. I spent quite a lot on food and drinks because I didn't like the mess. I liked getting the drinks upstairs. Every time I went out in port, I was going and buying like cocktails. Every time I could get food off the ship, I basically was, because I didn't like eating in the mess. So then I'm spending a lot of money getting Starbucks and getting lunch at the beach and paying for stuff. Then I wanted to just live my life and go and like explore the ports to the fullest. So it's like I'm paying for ziplining and I'm paying for activities. So I spent a lot more than I thought. And like we were in and out of New York. I'm going shopping in New York every week. Like I feel like that is a very common myth. It's like you don't have to spend any money when you work on a ship. You do spend money. Yeah. You have to like if you're gonna live your life. If you didn't want to talk to family, never wanted to go and get drinks, never wanted to like really do anything, you could save loads and not spend anything. But like if you're living your life like a normal person, then I mean my advice, and one of my friends gave me this advice before my first contract, was don't worry about money on your first contract at sea, because it's such a huge experience. You're doing all this travel. Go live your life, do what you want to do, like book your shore excursions, go to the Pig Beach, go to Disney, go to NASA, go do whatever you want to do.
Because you need to like live life, basically.
And then if you're going to do subsequent contracts, yes, like a big reason that people will go on ships is to go, like, I want to go and do another ship because I need money. But I've done now multiple contracts. So if I do another one now, I'm going to be, like, very actively saving and, like, be very careful about and very strategic about what excursions I'm going to do, because I've done now a lot of them, especially in the Caribbean. So, yeah, it is good. You do obviously get paid a really nice amount of money, and you get to explore like incredible countries. I wouldn't say you don't have to spend anything. You still spend. You do,
but you aren't spending as much as I think that you would.
You don't have the living costs at home, so you're not paying for rent and food. Or, like making your food. But I mean, I still paid for food.
Yeah, but I did a bit, but not loads.
Also, I'd say the quality of shows, especially recently, like it's such a myth that going and working on a ship is like subpar performing work. Like, no, it definitely used to be a thing that people would just turn their nose up at cruise work, and I just think it's such a valid, like, don't knock it till you've done it, guys. The amount of work you have to do in like the show, the quality of the shows is so intense. Vocally, what I'm being asked to do as a singer on a ship is like,
it's a lot,
tons more than in majority of musicals that I would do on land as a singer, even as a lead singer, even as the lead in a musical. You'd sing maybe one big 11 o'clock number and like a few, maybe a duet and this and that. On like ships, the singers, man, you are singing, you are doing like ballad, showstopper, massive belt. Like I did this show called Euphoria, and like it's only got me, the singer, female singer, and then the male singer dancer. He does a few duets with me, but like you are basically the only singer in that show, and you are just doing massive songs.
This is like me.
Quick change, another big song. Quick change, big song, and it's so crazy.
I had this as well. I was in a show on Carnival called 88 Keys, and it was basically just me. I was the only singer. We had a female singer. She sang maybe like 2 songs, but I had about 14 songs in the whole show, and they were like big belts. I had to hit a G5 as well, which for a man is really high, and I had to do that twice a night. And then afterwards, like we had like an after party of the show where we'd all have to go to the piano bar and like sing at the piano bar. So it was just a lot of vocal, like, and you do work really, really hard.
But it's amazing. Like it sounds like, yes, it's a lot of work vocally, but it's
very rewarding.
It's so rewarding, and like I grew so much as a singer. Like my talent, singing wise, from before ships to after ships, my vocal ability has just improved so much in so many ways. Like the stamina, my range, my like agility, like all my riffs, everything. My God, it's really improved so much. You're just working your voice. My voice was so on Silhouette. I was singing crazy amounts and like really like nice big good stuff, and then I was doing lots of singing practice like when I had time off. My voice was so strong and healthy then, like it just improves you beyond belief, and I would just always recommend it so much. Like,
do it, guys.
Turn your nose up at it all you want, but like until you've done it, you will see the quality of shows, the show packages, like the amount of stuff you're doing. It's harder than a lot of stuff.
Experience.
You'd come back and do like a musical in the West End, and majority of the time I would say that's going to be an easier contract in terms of what you're actually physically doing than ships, because you just work. You have to do 2 shows a night.
Yeah, and you're effectively doing 2 jobs. You are a performer and you're also a crew member.
So it's just amazing, and you get amazing footage. You get all this like really good footage to use in your show reels. You get highlighted in lots of different ways if you're a singer dancer.
Yeah,
you might get to like
yourself, doesn't it?
Do all these solo songs in a Broadway cabaret. You might get to do aerial and learn a new skill. Like there's just so many amazing things.
You meet incredible people from all over the world too. You make friends.
Yeah, I've made so many
most
friends.
Most of our friends
and
are now quite international as well.
I've got friends in America. We've got lots of Australian friends. You meet crew members from like all these different cultures and countries. It's just like very eye-opening, and just the travel element is just so cool as well. Like obviously for us British people, going to the Caribbean is like a big deal because we don't generally go on holiday to the Caribbean. And America is the Americans say it the other way around. Like they would go to the Bahamas for a holiday, but like they'd never go to Spain and France and stuff.
Well, because it's different continents, isn't it? So it's a big way for people to.
And like for me now, a bucket list for me is to go to Alaska, because I can't afford to do a holiday to Alaska myself. The only way I could do that is if I get it on a ship. So I would love to go and do that, and I just really think there's so many incredible
positives and things to come from it.
Obviously, the tricky parts is like being away from home and like being a bit disconnected and like cabin fever. Like if you're doing a transatlantic crossing, which happens a lot, you'll go from sailing in Europe to sailing when it's the Caribbean season and vice versa. You might have like 12 days, 14 days at sea, which is very difficult for crew members, because that's when you don't really get to use all the upstairs facilities so much. You're kind of a bit more contained downstairs, and you can get very bad weather on a crossing. So that can be a very tricky time. The ship like runs out of food towards the end of the crossing. Like it's just a lot. Sorry, I was just reading a message from Nan.
How inappropriate.
Walking the dog. But have we kind of covered everything? There's just so much here. But in terms of duties, very quickly, generally, I think I said this last week, generally the dancers have a few
They
more
do.
duties than the singers. There's something called import manning.
Yeah, I mean, I had to do this as a singer on Carnival. It was actually probably my worst duty, and it's not even very hard. It just means that every time the ship is in a port, you'll be on like a rotation to mean that some crew members have to stay on board just so that there are people on board manning the ship when it is in port, when guests are off. So every 4 weeks I would have to stay on board, and that was literally the job. You would just stay on board.
You can do whatever you want on board. They just have to have a certain number of crew
staff
members
members on board.
on board. As a singer, I've never had to do that.
Yeah, but then as a singer for Carnival, I did. It was part
Also,
of my duties.
it depended because on my COVID contracts, there was no shore leave for crew most of the time anyway. So
I just found it
wasn't
difficult
a thing.
because I didn't have the choice of who I was able to stay on board with. So I just got a bit lonely quite a lot of the time because a lot of my friends would go off and they'd have like a really nice day in Antigua or something.
And then, like, when they were on IPM, you could get off the ship but had no one to go with.
But I'd have no one to go with. I'd be like by myself, like, I've got no one to like enjoy my time with. I mean, I could just get off and have fun
when
by
you do
myself,
have
but...
IPM, you can it'll usually be like on a schedule, like colour coded. You'll be like a blue group or you'll be this group.
Yeah.
And you can kind of plan it in advance. So it's like if everyone was going to Atlantis one day in the cast and then you had 2 dancers who were like scheduled to be IPM, they could go and ask other crew members.
Yeah, you can swap.
Because you'll be friends with crew members in other departments. It's not like you're only friends with the cast. Like, obviously it depends on you as a person, how much you're socialising with other
They might hate
people,
you.
but most of the time you'll have like connections with people with totally different jobs. You might be friends with the bartenders or a tech team or whatever.
Musicians as well.
Musicians,
like sports team, the spa. I was friends with loads of the girls in the spa.
Yeah, so
cut
there's
my hair and
lots
everything.
of people that you might be able to like look at the thing and go, I really want to go with my friends on this date. Does anyone mind swapping with me? And like, I know sometimes the dancers would be like, I'll give you $10 if you like swap IPM with me. And like most of the time someone will, because it doesn't really make much difference. But we didn't have to do that.
Nope.
But the dancers did have to do like some extra stuff. They had to do like library duty.
Yeah.
And there was quite a big difference.
We had a
in
cinema on
Norwegian
ours. Like, it was called the Thrill Theatre. It was like a 4D cinema, and they had to like man the entrance of that. Some of the dancers had to teach dance classes or help with the water shuttles, like the tender
dance
boats.
classes is a big one. On NCL, the dancers had to do embark duty. So on an embark, again, it would be a rota, so it's like you don't have to do it every single time, but they would occasionally have to like help the guests when they're getting on board. So maybe stand on the gangway and check people in, or welcome them onto the ship and things like that. But I didn't really have to do any of that as a singer. And on Celebrity, there wasn't really many duties that we had to do apart from muster duty, which was just once in a while. It wasn't every week. But yeah, you'll get told what other extra duties, and like I said, there'll be extra little shows and stuff that you might have to do, like you said, sing around the piano bar or do a Broadway cabaret.
We
or
had to do a
this
lot of
cabaret
after parties after our shows. Like, we'd have to like invite the audience out and be like, let's continue the party
like,
outside, and you do
a lot
all
of
like...
the time the dancers will have like a pool deck routine, like a party thing that they have to do, and little things like that. So it does depend. But that's a lot of it. Now, we do have a little question here from my friend Gemma. I saw Gemma
Hello,
today.
Gemma.
Hey, Gemma. She says, what's your favourite place that you've docked on a cruise?
It's hard, but I have to say my favourite day was actually in St. Lucia.
I love
It was
St.
so
Lucia.
beautiful.
That was one
I
of
went
my
to see the
favourites.
Piton Mountains.
Yep, been
and we
there.
got on this like lovely boat.
Catamaran, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was like an actual like small speedboat. We had like our own private boat, and these guys like gave us like all loads of rum punch and stuff, and we all like sailed out and we just basically looked at it. We got lovely pictures of us there, and then they took us to this private resort, and we had like a lovely lunch, this beautiful restaurant. It was a beautiful beach. We went snorkeling. We got to see a bit of the like towns as well, and it's just wonderful. Oh, and we also were taken to like this little alcove, and they were like, "This is a really famous cave, which was used in Pirates of the Caribbean." They
I've
filmed
seen that.
here.
I've done that in St. Lucia.
So it was just wonderful, and I
Super
was
cool.
so lucky as well because actually I was meant to be on the Port Manning that day, and I swapped my ID with one of the other singers who didn't need to come. So I was so happy because it was like the one day we were in St. Lucia, because it wasn't one of our normal places, it was on our 14-day cruise. And I was so happy because I was like, this is my only chance to go to St. Lucia, and I'm just so glad I did. It was so wonderful. We had like a lovely time. What about yours?
St. Lucia was definitely one of my highlights from my first contract. We went somewhere really nice. It was just tropical paradise. Like, I love the Caribbean ports. I just think they're so tropical and nice. I don't know. I can't even think.
That's too
now
many.
I've been to so many different places.
You've
like,
got to
I
go to a lot
can't
more
even...
as well, because you've done a lot more ships, and you've also been to a lot more places, whereas my ship just only went around the Caribbean. Really.
I always say, like, I love the ABC Islands, which is Aruba, Bonaire and Curacao. They're just very beautiful. Like, I went to Bonaire in February when I did my guest tent stuff. Oh my God, it's just stunning. It's like white sand, crystal clear water. Like, it's just beautiful landscape.
I loved the US Virgin Islands as well, and the British Virgin Islands. They were really nice. I went there. Tortola.
Oh yeah, I've done that one. I liked we went to La Rochelle in France, and I had no idea what this was going to be like. This was in the middle of install on Apex as well, and I celebrated like my birthday that day, and I had no idea what this would be like, and it was just such an unexpected, stunning day. Like, we had an overnight, so we were there in the evening. It was just these lovely, beautiful turrets and castles and old, really stunning buildings, but it was like sunset. It was like golden hour, the most stunning sunset ever, like by the water, these lovely castle-y things. We went, oh my God, it was such a pretty town. There was like fairy lights everywhere. We had like a really nice dinner out in the town. There was like live music playing, fairy lights, the sunset. Like, we got like
stunning,
like unexpectedly super drunk. Like, it was just one, like, we were like having a meal, and then you stand up from the meal and you're like oh my God, I'm so wavy. But it was like just the like where everything is funny, everything is nice. Like, it was just, that was a really, really nice day. That was just like unexpected beautifulness. I don't know, like Athens, we went there and we went to the Acropolis, and that was just super cool. I'm trying to think where else we went. I literally can't remember. Just, I love it all. Like, there's rarely,
it's so good.
I mean, sometimes you end up doing the same schedule
places.
for like ages, and you're just like, okay, I've done this one like 100 times now, I'm over it. Like, you get a bit all over Port Canaveral, Merritt Square Mall.
Oh gosh, Merritt Square Mall, Port Canaveral is
like
not fun.
Bit dead. Like, we
I used to go there every week. That was where I'd collect my guests after I moved from Texas.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, this is... I have to say as well, Norway was just the most stunning scenery ever. Like, you get the most stunning sailways through the Norwegian fjords.
Sail away, sail away, sail away. Do you know that song?
No.
Oh, never mind.
And actually, I'm going back on a ship in a couple of weeks.
You are?
To do my guest tent stuff, and we're going to Norway and Finland, maybe, can't remember, and I'm going to Iceland. I haven't been to Iceland before, so I'm very excited.
Oh, so jealous.
To go to Reykjavik, because I've seen everyone goes there, and maybe I'll get to see the Norwegian lights. Is that what you call
Northern
them?
Lights.
Northern Lights.
The Norwegian lights.
So very excited. That's going to be some nice landscape, But
no, thank you very much, Gemma, for your question.
And we are going to ask a few questions to my nan very shortly. Okay, welcome back. We have special guest number 1 on the podcast. It's my nan. Say hello, Nan.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
So Nan's going to ask us just a couple of questions about ship life.
Right, so my first question is, do you have the same food as the guests have on the ship, or is yours different altogether?
So we kind of touched on this. We have we can eat the same as the guests. We're allowed to go up into the crew. Oh my god, I keep saying that.
You do.
Into the guest areas and eat from the buffet is where we commonly will go the most. But it's very busy sometimes, even for the guests. Like, it's super busy. But we can go and eat up there for free. We can also go and eat in the restaurants that the guests can go to. They'll usually have specialty restaurants, so they'll have a sushi restaurant, maybe a steakhouse, an Italian.
Yeah, we had a cucina.
We can go to them, but we'll have to pay for them out of our own pocket. You might get a crew discount, but you do have to pay for them. So that would be maybe not like an everyday thing.
No,
It's
that's
on
like a special treat
birthday,
type
or like
thing.
if you just fancy being fancy. But we have our own crew, like, cafeteria basically.
Yeah,
but it's
for when
not,
it's busy in a sea day.
not very nice, and it's like not many options.
But you've got the choice to go and have if you're vegetarian or if you're...
Yeah, they have it. And like on some of my ships, there's a special like vegan, vegetarian section in the buffet. So they had like quite good options, but sometimes it's a bit... Chloe Ballantyne actually just sent that question in as well about the food. I know she's a vegan.
Oh, did she?
So it's a bit... It can be tricky, but you can make it work. You just go to the salad bar. You have to find as much fresh stuff as you can. Because it's not always...
All right, and the other question, Emma and James, is who decides on which cabins you have and how do they rank you? You know, to the better ones to the lower ones, sort of thing.
That's a good question, because there definitely is a ranking system, isn't there?
It is. It's dependent on what role you have as to what your privilege is. It's normally said in your contract.
And that would just be set by the company, like from the get-go. Like, that's just how they operate when they build the ship. They'll have a
set amount of
number of cabins for each department and each role, and like for normal crew it would depend on like the number of stripes you have, which is like for the officers and the managers. If you're like a manager, you'll get a certain amount of stripes. The higher up ranking you go, obviously your cabin will improve with that. So for us, the singers often get like better cabins for whatever reason. It's just cabin. How it is. So I've always had my own cabin. I've never had to share.
And can you change if you want to, if you're not happy with it? Is that difficult?
No, not really.
Not really, unless there's like a major issue. It's normally if you're sharing a cabin and
if you're a dancer and you're sharing with somebody else and you have a conflict or an issue. Sometimes I know, because they'll usually put, if they're sharing, they'll put girls with girls and boys with boys. But then
unless you're like a couple.
Sometimes you can ask to change that, or if you're like really close friends, like my friends Beck and Curtis on Silhouette, they knew each other. It would be like me and you, like they knew each other from home and were like best friends, and they would like, we'd rather share with each other because we know each other so well. So they would share. But basically it gets handed down from the ship. So it'd be like, my role, say, is F2. It would be that F2 has that cabin number and it's always the same. So when I leave, the person that's replacing my role will have the exact same cabin. But yeah.
All right, Emma, well, thank you very much. I'm off to have a chocolate biscuit.
Lovely.
And a cup of tea.
Our favourite. See you later, then.
See you later. Bye.
Okay, and that's pretty much the end, because we have done a very long episode.
Yes.
But we knew this was going to be long because there is so much to discuss about this topic. And if we haven't answered,
You're very posh.
I'm very vocal fry right now, and you keep kicking the desk. Jesus
it's because
Christ.
my legs are very long and they don't fit here.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I need more leg room.
So yeah, I have to go and teach now. I have no voice.
I get to go home and chill. I shouldn't film a self-tape. Great.
Yes. If you have any more questions, let us know. We'll answer them. But hopefully we've covered a lot of stuff here with ship life, and it's been nice and informative.
So we'd like to thank you for listening, and on to the next.
Also follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Follow us on our social medias.
Yeah.
Okay. We're tired.
I know.
Bye.
Bye.